Okay. If we can have the door. Thank you, Chief Kirby, for that admonishment. I will continue to remind you, I do take very seriously, we are an earthquake country. I do take very seriously that aisle remains open, which it's not particularly open right now, that we have a clear exit path. I'm sorry to do that. I'm actually not sorry to do that. You'll thank me if we need it. So we'll continue to do that throughout the evening. And the evening will go much better if we can have that. If you have a speaker's card to speak on an agenda item tonight, it must be turned in before I start the public hearing. I will not accept them after that. I can already tell you that the time will be significantly shortened for each speaker. That's how many I have so far. So if they aren't turned in by the time we start public comment, I won't accept them after that. I will accept them before that so that we know the time to allot for it. The council needs to do its business, and so we'll administer the time. Secondly, is there anybody else that wishes to speak on public comment? We're going to get to that in a minute. Okay, if you can, I've got yours. If you haven't gotten a speaker's card in for public comment, please do that ASAP in the next couple minutes. So with that, we'll get started. I'd like to welcome you and thank all of those present and in the lobby, I guess, and at home to our regular meeting of the Joint City Council Successor Agency Board and the Public Financing Authority meeting of September 11th. With that, I would like to have a roll call, please, from our city clerk, Pam Aguilar, please.
Councilmember Aguirre.
Here.
Councilmember Borgens.
Here.
Councilmember Howard.
Here.
Councilmember Mazer.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bain.
Here.
Mayor Siebert.
Here.
And Councilmember G is absent tonight.
I'm going to ask you to rise in just a second for the Pledge of Allegiance that will be led by Councilwoman Shelley Mazer. I'm going to ask you at the end of the Pledge of Allegiance to please remain standing for a few comments I have to make. While we're still standing, I would ask you to do that. But please rise now for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. It was 16 years ago today, some 12 plus hours ago. Many of us will never forget where we were. But I want to take a moment tonight and remember those that lost their lives innocently on 9/11, who were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. I also want to remember those who lost their lives innocently because they were selfless. They gave their lives up to rush in to try and help others. So I wish, if you would, please join me in a moment of silence in remembrance of 9/11. Thank you. You may be seated. It's interesting how events like that can put in perspective all the things that become so important to us in our day-to-day life. The next item on the agenda is actually skipping to public comment. I do have two speakers' cards. Is there anyone else? No? Okay. I have two speakers' cards. The first one is Alice Henderson.
Good evening. I'm going to keep it brief because clearly you have a lot to talk about this evening, but I am the adaptive coach and director of adaptive rowing at Bear Island Aquatic Center, and we have a lot of great things happening. I wanted to give you an update and to thank you for your ongoing support of our programming. So we have in non-Olympic years, we have our World Championships, and we have a gentleman from Redwood City and a woman from Seattle who've been training here, and they're going to be representing the United States in a couple of weeks at the World Championships in a para event. And they've been training. I think you have pictures, and you can see we're in front of the port with a ship coming in if the quality of those pictures are good. We also to be modest, I think we're doing a really great job, and there's other programs who want to copy that. So Disabled Sports USA and the governing body for rowing had a West Coast training in Redwood City, and we had people from Oregon and across California come and observe our best practices and are taking them to start programs elsewhere, including in Berkeley. So it's nice that Redwood City is fostering things in Berkeley. So we've been working on that. And then lastly, on a weekly basis, we have veterans, disabled veterans who row with us at our facility down in off of Maple Street. And there's a picture, you see a man who's rowing. He is visually impaired, almost fully blind. He lives in Redwood City, and he's being led by a woman who lives in Emerald Hills who is telling him and guiding him how to row. So he's rowing independently in that boat. And there's a woman who's sitting there who's an above-knee amputee, also military, and she lives in Morgan Hills and drives an hour to come row with us a couple of times a week because how awesome this is an experience for her. And then down below is last year's veteran Learn to Row event. We have it always near 9/11. And we have our next one coming up Saturday, and we have vets coming from different places, either disabled or not disabled, but it's a celebration of our veterans, and we offer rowing, and that is this Saturday from 10 to 1, and we invite any veterans to come join us. You can RSVP on our website at Bear Island Aquatic Center for the event this weekend, teaching people how to row. So thank you for your time, your ongoing support. I know you don't want to come out, but any of you would like to come out in my launch with me, I'd love to have you ride along, and you can see what we're doing in Redwood City with our adaptive rowing program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The City Council fondly remembers rowing because of our victory over the Planning Commission many years ago.
I've heard legend.
I say that sitting this far from Councilman Borgens and Planning Commissioner Radcliffe, who's in the audience, especially since I didn't row. Jody Paley, and that'll be followed by Allison Madden.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I am here this evening to talk about Chase the Chill as we go into year 2, and I'm really happy I came on a night where there's so many people paying attention. For those who aren't familiar, last year we started Chase the Chill, a program where we collected handmade scarves. Every scarf has a tag that says, I don't belong to anybody. If you need me, take me. If you like me, take me. So a combination of public art and public service. We collected 433 scarves last year, made by people ranging from a Girl Scout troop with kindergarteners all the way up to people from the senior center. So your age is not an excuse. Lack of knitting ability is not necessarily an excuse not to participate either. You're welcome to get the cut and fleece and slice a scarf and add some fringe, and we will gladly take it. So coming up, before you go over to Bear Island on Saturday, if you want to come back down by the square, we will be outside Stuff on the Square from 10 until noon. If anybody wants new or remedial lessons in knitting or crochet, we have a lot of donated yarn. We have plenty of knitting needles and crochet hooks if you want to get started, and we will be there. The bins, the collection bins, will be set up in October at various sites around town. I'll come back. Chris, Beth, and I are meeting on Thursday to work out exactly where, if we're going to do the same places as last year or not. I will come back and make an announcement for that. The distribution, like last year, will be on 2 days, middle of November, where me and some friends of ours and a few others will go out very early in the morning and hang the scarves up around town. And so just keep your eyes open. If you want to follow us, we have a Facebook site under Chase the Chill, RWC, and we also post regularly on Nextdoor. So hope to see some of you or some of your work from all of you. And let's see if we can top that. And also, if you don't want to do scarves, if for some reason, I know some people like to knit socks or hats or gloves, we will accept those this year. Last year, we just did scarves, and we had an incredible turnout for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Allison Madden.
Thank you. Good evening. I just want to talk quickly about 3 things. The first is the Charter Revision Subcommittee, and the second is the Bradford Affordable Housing and the Land Exchange that's going on with State Lands Commission, and the third is safety at Docktown. On the Charter Subcommittee, Chris Johnson and I went to the last meeting, And this is what Chris wanted me to say. The doors were locked. There were no minutes posted. There was a bare bones notification. He called on Thursday and was told about the meeting on a Monday. There was no community outreach. And also, there are no members of the public, it appears, on this committee. And I think that this is going to look at how to revise the charter and make a proposal even for a vote up or down this fall. And I'm requesting that you reconstitute that committee and you have members of the public. It was postured that that was just a real kind of cleanup, changing pronouns and this and that. And actually, there were material red lines to the part about the port. And right now, we have an independent port authority, and it's worked very well since the charter was adopted. And this would put it under the control and approval of the City Council. And that's huge and fundamental and should only be proposed after studying the pros and cons and having citizen input. The second part about the Bradford project, for the first time ever, almost all of downtown, the port used to come up to Marshall Street, which was Embarcadero, and all of this is on fill. No development ever has had to do a land swap in order to build their building. And now, first we get this affordable housing, and they're proposing that they have to do a land swap and find land down at the port. And it's a huge part where BIAC is, which is actually in city fee title, and it would be putting it into the public trust, which means no residential houseboats. And that was actually the task force for the Inner Harbor suggested switching BIAC and Docktown for exactly, a creative solution to allowing to keep some of the homes. So I've reached out to the State Lands Commission and the Mid-Peninsula Housing and Bill White of Chute-Mahaley, and with saying, nobody else has ever had to do this land swap, and so I'm very much against it. With regard to safety at Docktown, I do appreciate that you're changing the fobs on the facility, but since you took over 4 years ago, there have been no cameras, no security patrol, no harbor master, and it's getting critical. Poor Xander, his bike was stolen off his father's truck. We've got people on drugs sleeping on the docks. We have somebody that has called the police a couple times, and they said if she calls again, they're going to charge her $100. And it's just really ridiculous. I'm on the verge of filing a tort claim. We've reached out to Terrence.
Your time is up, so if you could finish up.
Okay, I didn't know. I thought that was 30 seconds. Sorry about that. I'm done.
It beeped earlier.
That's a 30-second warning. There'll be a
so
beep
now
at
it
30
beeps.
seconds.
All right, so that's new to us. Apologize, Ms. Madden. You did get your 3 minutes, so now it beeps at 30 seconds. News to all of us. Okay, we move to consent. Do I have a motion on consent? Okay, I have a motion and a second on consent. Electronic vote, please.
Can council confirm that all votes have been cast? Okay.
Yes.
The motion passes with 6 votes. Councilmember G is absent.
Okay. It didn't show the votes correctly, but are we aware of what the vote was 6-0? Do you want to confirm that by a voice vote just to make sure?
If we could take a roll call vote.
Thank you.
Councilmember Aguirre? Yes. Councilmember Borgens?
Yes.
Councilmember Howard?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bain?
Yes.
Mayor Siebert?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, with that on the consent calendar with one motion and one approval, we approve the following items: improvement agreement for landscape maintenance agreement, stormwater treatment measures for the development at 2075 Broadway. Amendment number 1 to the on-call as needed professional services for surveying. Response to the civil grand jury on English is not our only language regarding law enforcement. Delicate balance between privacy and protection. That is also a civil grand jury report. Approval of draft meeting minutes for a regular meeting of August 28th. Water connection service proposed for single-family residents. Resolution approving the temporary street closure for Sequoia Stampede event. Resolution approving the temporary street closure for the Redwood City Police Cadets Run with Cops event. and approval of claims checks dated September 11th and the usual necessary payments through September 25th, 2017. With that, we move on to item 7A, an appeal by Dave Tanner for the Redwood Village Business Association of a Planning Commission Resolution 17-07. Just a couple of housekeeping items tonight. I'm going to have a couple of times where I talk about housekeeping items, but the first of which is, here's how the choreography is going to go this evening. There will be a staff report presented by Lisa Costa-Sanders. There will be the appellant, Dave Tanner, will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. The applicant, Launchpad Development or Rocketship Elementary, will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. We will then go to a public hearing, at which point I will have some additional comments to make. When we go to the public hearing, if I don't have your speaker's card, it won't matter. You will not speak. So if you need to get one in, now is a better time than then. After the public comment, then the council will have questions and discussion at that point. So that'll be kind of how we move through the agenda item. With that, I will turn it over, I think, to Lisa Costa-Sanders, who will do the staff report.
We're very excited about our new system here. Okay, thank you. Good evening, council members. As you indicated, this is the appeal of the Rocketship School. Just to start off with some background, the application was submitted September 2014. An initial study, mitigated negative declaration, was prepared in accordance with CEQA and released for public review and comment September 30th of 2016. The Planning Commission conducted the public hearings on November 1st as well as April 4th. These meetings were continued to provide an opportunity for staff and consultants to prepare a response to comments received. The Planning Commission approved the project at its June 20th meeting by approving the initial study, mitigated negative declaration, and approving the conditional use permit and architectural review permit to allow Rocketship School at 860 Charter Street. Rocketship School is a public elementary school operating under a charter agreement with the Redwood City Elementary School District. The project includes repurposing an existing 23,000 square foot building for school use. The school is approved with an enrollment of 480 students in transitional kindergarten through 5th grade. The school will employ 25 full-time staff and 5 to 10 part-time staff. The project includes 38 on-site parking spaces, 24 of which will be within mechanical lifts and 25 bicycle parking spaces. The applicant has designed an on-site loading zone for student drop-off and pickup. This site is somewhat unique as it's located within 2 jurisdictions. It's at the corner of Bay Road and Charter Street. The rear parcel with the building is located within city jurisdiction, and then the parcel at the corner at Bay and Charter is located within the jurisdiction of the County of San Mateo. Bay Road and Charter Street are also under county jurisdiction. Within Redwood City, the site is zoned industrial restricted, with public uses, including schools, considered permitted uses when located within a building. A use permit is required for the nonconforming parking stall size and driveway width at the rear of the building. The general plan designation for the site is industrial light. The general plan is silent on schools as a land use within this area. However, the zoning code does allow it as a permitted use. The outdoor play yard at that front parcel would be located within the county jurisdiction, and in the county, school use at this location would require a conditional use permit. The county property is zoned light industrial. This is the site plan. The project includes interior improvements to the existing building to create 15 new classrooms, 3 offices, lobby area, cafeteria, associated restrooms, and lunchroom. The playground is located on the county parcel with new landscaping and play surfaces. Parking includes 8 surface parking spaces to the rear of the building and 30 parking spaces at the front parcel, 24 of which would be within a mechanical lift system. The applicant has also designed an on-site double-loaded driveway to accommodate the morning and afternoon drop-off and pickup operations. Parents will enter the site from eastbound Charter Street, pull onto the site, and children will be assisted out of cars by staff. Parents will then exit the site by making a right turn onto Bay Road. Left turns onto the site and out of the site will be prohibited. During school hours, the gates will close off the driveway and the area will be used as a playground. The front parking spaces will be accessible during those school hours, and you can access that from Bay Road. Bicycle parking is provided near the building. The project also requires architectural review approval. The applicant's making some improvements to the exterior of the building with new storefront roll-up glass doors, as you can see from the Bay Street elevation, new landscaping along the entire perimeter of the site, as well as new awning and a decorative rocket ship. As noted, the city received an appeal of the Planning Commission's decision. The appellant asserts that the Planning Commission failed to comply with CEQA. As we indicated, initial study and mitigative negative declaration were prepared and circulated for public review and comment. All comments were addressed, as well as updated traffic counts were completed. The project will not result in any significant impact to the environment with the implementation of the mitigation measures. The appeal letter does not include specific reasons for the assertion that the Planning Commission failed to comply with CEQA. The second basis for the appeal is that the Planning Commission failed to support its findings for the conditional use permit with substantial evidence in the record. As the project requires a conditional use permit for continuation of legally non-conforming parking stall size and driveway width, does not require a use permit for the school use. The use permit findings are supported with the basis for the findings as listed in the staff report, as well as Planning Commission resolution. The appeal letter does not include specific reasons for the assertion that the Planning Commission failed to support its findings. We have the recommended motion here to approve the resolution denying the appeal, approving the CEQA, as well as the conditional use permit. As noted in your staff report, the Planning Commission approved the project by a vote of 4-3, so it was 4 in favor, 3 opposed. Commissioners that were opposed to the project expressed concern with land use compatibility of a school within a light industrial area, lack of on-site parking for parents as well as special events, pedestrian conflicts with large trucks, limited visibility at driveways, as well as potential traffic impacts to adjacent businesses due to school queues spilling onto the narrow street. A resolution of denial has been included in your packet as attachment 3 based on those findings that were just mentioned by the Planning Commission. And I have here your alternative motion if you wish to uphold the appeal and deny the project. This evening, in addition to your staff, we have the CEQA consultant, the traffic consultant, as well as county planner to answer any of your questions.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will now grant 10 minutes to the appellant, Dave Tanner. Mr. Tanner.
She'll cue it up, and then if you just want to advance the slide right there.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you very much. Good evening. And first thing I'd like to say is we're here tonight not to talk about the school itself. It is about the location where the school is proposed. That's the only thing we're talking about here tonight. Nothing about how the school works. I have my planner tonight, Wayne Rasmussen. He's has now 40 years as a planner for 4 Bay Area cities, and he has 2 advanced degrees in planning. Tonight also I have Steve Cassidy, who's Cassidy Law, and you have a letter right now in your possession that he had brought in this evening as a desk item, and also as an item I think you should pay close attention to. This item has a lot to do with how legally this has been handled. So right now I'd like to let you talk to Wayne Rasmussen, and he'll give a demonstration. First slide.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I think we can all agree that we have a room full of precious faces down here, regardless of what the planning matter is. It has been brought to our attention by legal counsel that schools may possibly not be conditionally permitted in the industrial zone in which it is proposed. In order to resolve this issue, we would ask that the question be posed to either the planning director or the city attorney this evening as appropriate to you. The general plan and zoning are intended to create a pattern of land use that are compatible with and efficiently organized. The proposed project presents a clear example of why this is important. The crowding of 480 children, of some of which are before you, into the middle of a highly active industrial district simply cannot be made to be safe. Nor can the school impacts on the neighboring businesses be mitigated. Significant areas of incompatibility include a high level of exposure to hazardous risks to many children and others, and significant adverse traffic congestion on the outlying neighborhood caused by traffic volumes, queuing, student drop-offs, and insufficient parking. In my planning career, I have never seen a school proposed that presents anywhere near the amount of significant impacts and safety hazard risks to children and the surrounding area as the current project. And I think that's the most important statement that I have to say as a professional planner. All within the immediate vicinity of the school are uses, that transport, consume, and create byproduct hazardous materials. Some of these include large-scale outdoor storage and propane and specialty gas storage, gasoline service station, in and outdoor storage of various industrial materials and equipment. And also alcoholic beverages are sold at several nearby businesses, and barbed wire fencing and guard dogs are also common in the immediate area of the proposed school. State law and city municipal code require that the Planning Commission and City Council make specific findings prior to granting a conditional use permit. These findings relate to protecting the public health and safety of both the project and the surrounding neighborhood. It is our belief that the findings prepared by staff for this project are wholly inadequate in regards for this project because the project isn't safe in this location. Furthermore, due to the numerous public health and safety issues raised by this project, it is simply not possible for the required findings to be made. The project remains unsafe no matter what we might do to improve it. The applicant is basically asking for approval to crowd 480 children into 23,000 square feet of a concrete tilt-up building, concrete tilt-up being one of the least safe kinds of building construction in earthquake situations. And also on a 1.1 acre lot where typically an elementary school of this size would be placed on a 10 acre site or somewhat less than that. And it also has the insufficient traffic circulation and parking, as others will talk to. This is clearly a dangerous situation to place the community in. We therefore request that the appeal be upheld and the project be denied. Should the council decide not to uphold the appeal, we strongly implore you to at least require the preparation of an EIR to adequately evaluate the various safety, traffic, parking, and other significant impacts posed by the project. Without project mitigation requirements by all of the necessary governmental agencies and technical professionals for this very sensitive use in this very sensitive area, you will be risking serious ongoing safety hazards and incompatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. We very sincerely appreciate the need for more schools, as these people certainly do. But safety must be, in the end, the overriding consideration. This project is simply not safe and cannot be made to be safe or fair to the existing neighborhood. These are the faces of the children that would be put at risk. Thank you.
Can I get a time check on that, please?
2 minutes and 50 seconds.
Oops, sorry. A, the proposal will not have significant adverse effects on nearby industrial firms. One of the findings you can't make in here is this subject property uses in the past have been a low-intensity use. The proposed school will turn into a high-intensity use. 2, the school's traffic alone will create gridlock every morning and in the afternoon. 3, the removal of the on-street parking. B, the transportation system is capable of safety supporting the proposed use in addition to the existing uses in the area. Evaluation factors include street capacity, level of services, access to arterials, to transit, availability, on-street parking impacts, access requirements, neighborhood impacts, and pedestrian and bicycle safety. 1, the roads are substandard now and cannot handle any more additional traffic. 2, there is no directly available public transit. 3, every on-street parking spot is filled to capacity now. 4, most driveways cannot be assessed now with large delivery trucks. 5, the overflow parking is now going into residential neighborhood streets. 6, the sidewalks now have buildings right up to the walkway, making it hard for exiting vehicles to see on the oncoming pedestrians and vice versa. 7, there are no bicycle pathways, as well as we have double parked delivery vehicles, adding to the safety issues. The third finding you must find is the proposed use will not significantly alter overall balance of land use in the area based on the existing proportional of industrial and non-industrial ones and the effects of incremental changes. This school, number 1, this school use is not typical in an industrial area and will put the underage children in harm's way every day. 2, this is too large of an incremental change for the neighborhood. 3, this school will not fit into commercial harmony of the neighborhood. You have a legal document in front of you right now explaining even more.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. This thing turns off. Appellate's documents and analysis contain many other examples of such unmitigated adverse impacts, such as the street parking impacts, queuing and traffic congestion, pedestrian student safety, exposure to hazardous materials. Nothing to the staff report or the documents which rebutes any of the evidence contained in the appellate's documents analysis. Sorry, we can't seem to put all the information we need to do tonight in 10 minutes. All right, this is not fair.
Your time is up. It's what's been allotted. Okay. The applicant now, who will be speaking on behalf of the applicant? You'll have 10 minutes? Okay.
All right. Good evening, Matthew. There you go. Wonderful. So this is this slide.
Is this?
There we go. Excellent. Great. Good evening, Mayor Siebert and Redwood City Council members. I am Marie Gill, Bay Area Regional Director for Rocketship Public Schools, and it is my privilege to represent the parents, teachers, staff, and supporters of Rocketship Redwood City Prep, many of who are here with us this evening to ask you to uphold the recommendation of city staff and the approval by the Planning Commission members, giving their school a permanent home in our own community. Rocketship is a nonprofit network of public elementary schools educating children from transitional kindergarten through 5th grade. 10 years ago, we opened our first school in a church in San Jose, and today we operate 12 Bay Area schools serving approximately 6,000 Rocketeers. Our collective community of parents, educators, staff, students, and community leaders are united in one mission to eliminate the achievement gap in our lifetime. Our transformational school model is built on 3 key pillars. 1, personalized learning. Our tailored instruction combines content, learning, experience, and pace to meet the unique needs of every student. 2, talent development. Our teachers receive over 300 hours of professional development every single year, no matter how many years they've been in the classroom. And 3, parent power. As you are witnessing this evening, our parents are deeply engaged in this issue. Our parents are advocates of their students' learning, and they're enthusiastic participants in the school community. Eliminating the achievement gap means eliminating disparities to academic growth for students in underserved communities. And this is exactly what we do. Among elementary school districts serving similar students, Rocketship ranks in the top 10% across the entire state of California in both math and English language arts performance. At Rocketship Redwood City Prep, where 84% of our students are classified as socioeconomically disadvantaged, our Rocketeers are outperforming all students across the city and the state. This is what it looks like to eliminate the achievement gap. Rocketship students are proving that demographics do not define their potential to thrive in excellent school environment. Bringing Rocketship schools to Redwood City is what over 400 parents made possible. And what started with one family's decision to trek south from Redwood City towards San Jose in search of a public school of choice came a grassroots movement, a following of parents. Parent advocates for educational equity started right here in this proud, diverse community of Redwood City. Rocketship Redwood City Prep belongs to this community. And despite our current temporary location across town at Kennedy Middle School, over 80% of our families currently enrolled live within a 1.5 mile radius of our proposed future site. As you can see here, there are hundreds of families just a short walking distance from 860 Charter Street. These families should not have to leave their own neighborhood and drive across town to attend a public school of their choice. All families in Redwood City deserve great public schools in their own neighborhoods. I would now like to invite Harrison Tucker, our Rocketship Director of Real Estate, to share more about the land use process and progress towards building a school for children in Redwood City and the community of Fair Oaks.
Good evening, council members. My name is Harrison Tucker. I'm the Director of Real Estate for Rocketship. I have managed the design and construction of 10 Rocketship campuses and worked on the 860 Charter campus in collaboration with city and county staff over the last 3 years. We have performed extensive site due diligence and are confident 860 Charter Street is the best location for Rocketship Redwood City Prep. As you all well know, the peninsula's real estate boom has constricted an already tight market, especially for a nonprofit public school system as ourselves, competing among the Bay's top universities and money tech companies. Over the last 5 years, we have evaluated 10 sites. Only one of those 10 sites, 860 Charter Street, meets our needs. Our real estate strategy has been thoughtfully considered, guided by our belief that a well-designed, well-built school in the right location means better outcomes for our students and ultimately improves the outcomes of their lives. As we've demonstrated, the site is close to our families. It accommodates our innovative school model, gives our students ample outdoor play space, and accomplishes all this within the tight constraints of a nonprofit operating budget. Lastly, as shown through the CEQA process, the site exceeds high standards for environmental safety and traffic impact mitigation.
Locating an ideal site is just the start. For the last 3 years, we've been working extensively with all stakeholder groups. Multilingual community outreach across a variety of sectors of the Redwood City community has been an immense focus of this project in order to engage a wide constituency of residents, nonprofit organizations, and local businesses. As we have demonstrated through a consistent pattern of listening and outreach, We have taken a collaborative approach to thoroughly addressing questions and responding to feedback to bring forth a high-quality project proposal to both the city and the county. Rocketship Public Schools had held numerous community meetings. We conducted over 120 hours of business and neighborhood public outreach and hosted ongoing meetings with a variety of faith-based, education, and civic groups, including the Chamber of Commerce, who recently submitted a letter of support along with several other businesses. The families who choose Rocketship Redwood City Prep are driving the movement to bring the school home to the Fair Oaks neighborhood. These parents live, work, or own a business right here in Redwood City. Families who celebrating the vibrant culture and sharing in the diversity of this proud community. Parents are the first teachers of their children, and consequently, a strong partnership between families and their community is essential to the success of these schools. Parents that advocate for their Rocketeers in the elementary school years and beyond have the ability to ensure that students remain on track for college and further transform their home communities through education equity.
We have listened to the community's concerns and modified our project and school model in direct response. 1, we reduced our school model by 120 students. 2, over 5 site plan iterations, we elongated the queue, ensuring no cars will be backed up onto the public right-of-way, thereby minimizing the impact to the adjacent business owners. 3, we included staggered arrival times, added carpooling incentives for parents, and public transit incentives for staff, all of which go above and beyond the required CEQA mitigation. And since the last Planning Commission hearing, to demonstrate our continued commitment to working with the local business owners, we have added 4 shuttles to the 860 charter project, which will reduce our trip counts below the limit already agreed upon with the county. For Rocketship, safety is a daily imperative. As a nonprofit public school network, we are the stewards for the safety of over 6,000 Bay Area kids every day. Our 860 charter campus utilizes the same standards for safety deployed at all of our Bay Area campuses. For example, a single point of entry during operating hours, in this case off Charter Street. For children who walk to school, they will always be accompanied by parents. And the 12,000 square foot state-of-the-art play area is fully enclosed, keeping both kids and passing vehicles safe during the school day. We've also made site-specific safety modifications, including a public improvement for pedestrian safety at the corridor of Bay and Charter. Lastly, as was highlighted by one planning commissioner, this neighborhood has a diverse set of land uses: restaurants, doggy daycares, churches, and schools. Hoover Elementary, 1 block to the west, and Summit High School, 1 block to the east, illustrate school use is both safe and compatible in the context of this neighborhood. We are committed to building a beautiful school that is an asset to this community and to the city of Redwood City.
Time is up.
We are proud of this
That's
project.
30 seconds.
And we
Oh, I'm sorry.
positive force for the community.
So in conclusion, we want to thank the staff at the Planning Commission, the staff at the Planning Department, the Planning Commissioners for their extensive and meticulous review of this project. We want to acknowledge our principal, Esther Lynn, and past principal, Casey Rowe, all the parents that came here to support us tonight, as you can see, continue to follow this project and are here to speak.
Your time is up. I think
Thank
there's
you.
actually a question for you from Vice Mayor Bain.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd just like to have you clarify, and I think perhaps for Mr. Tucker, a couple things about the application. You mentioned you'd looked at 10 sites, but this was the only one that met your needs. Can you elaborate on what your needs are and why the others did not meet those needs?
Yeah, sure. Affordability is the primary driver. We are operating off of the state revenues for public schools, and therefore we have a limited amount we can afford to pay on an annual basis for lease costs or debt service if it was an ownership situation. So most of the sites that would be available for our use are out of our price range. They simply make it not feasible to operate a school. In other cases, it's too much square footage where we'd have to improve too much of the building or find another tenant to co-locate with us, which we haven't been able to do. Parking and traffic are obviously big considerations. Finding a site in Redwood City near the North Fairix community with the amount of parking and traffic circulation that we would need has been very challenging. So we've had a broker on the market ever since we decided to locate in Redwood City about 4 years ago, and this is still the best site that we've come across, and those are some of the considerations.
Okay, and did you consult with city staff before proceeding with a purchase?
It's not a purchase. We have a lease agreement.
Understood.
So we met with the city staff back in the fall of 2014, and I believe it was after we had put in an application. It was a long time ago.
Okay. And last question on the community outreach piece. I saw there were several community meetings. How did you notice the community and the surrounding businesses of those meetings?
So we worked diligently with the planning department staff to notice the meetings. In addition to that, we walked the community and knocked on doors. For the last 2 community meetings, the city staff issued a mailing list of over 80 businesses or parties that were interested in being noticed. So we did mail, we did phone calls for those who had phone numbers, and for those who signed the petition, we also did follow-up outreach to those as well.
Thank you.
Okay. We are not. Councilman Mazur?
Do you want us to wait for questions?
I would prefer if you've got, unless you've got something that needs clarification immediately.
No, I can ask.
Yeah, if not, we want to get through the public hearing and then we'll come back to that. Okay. Okay, so I've got a couple comments about the public hearing. Tonight, I realize that most of you, some people are used to being at public hearings. I know it sounds kind of funny, probably to a lot of you. But some of you, I'm guessing it's their first time at public hearings. So we have a little bit of way that we do business in Redwood City. And I'm going to engage the students. So if I can have all the students' attention real quick for just a second, I got a question for you. So how many of you, just by a show of hands, no noise, how many of you have rules posted in your classrooms at school right now? Good, that's right. I'm not going to ask how many of you follow them. Good. All right, you can put your hands down. And adults, I've got a question for you. How many of you here feel like it's important to set a good example for these young people? Great. If I can have my slide up. I'm going to do this a little differently tonight. We've got some rules tonight. This is how we do business in here. It is a very scary thing for a lot of people to get up to that microphone and speak. Public speaking is not fun. Some of us, even that do it a lot, don't always appreciate it. So we're going to respect everyone's opportunity to speak. We're going to stay within your time allotted, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. But during that, when someone says something you like, people are going to say things you like, and people are going to say things you don't like. But what we don't do is we don't clap, we don't boo, we don't hiss, we don't make any other gestures that show whether we like it or not. We just listen quietly and let the next person speak. So is that clear? I hope I don't have to remind you. I really hope I don't have to remind the parents and the adults in the room, because we're going to act like adults, and we're going to be quiet and let people speak. This is not about whether someone's good or someone's bad. This is about someone has an opinion and someone has a difference of opinion. And opinions aren't good or bad. They're just different. And that's something that we are trying to get across to our entire community. And I think the students tonight have already set a great example of that, and I think we're going to do that tonight. We have read numerous amounts. I can assure you, I have read and tried to. My thing is that if you email me before 4 o'clock on the day of the meeting, I will respond. So hopefully if you emailed me before 4 o'clock today, you got a response. If it was after that, I apologize, but I'm kind of into meeting mode at that point. We have read all your emails and all your letters and seen all the pictures that have come out. I believe most of us are very familiar with the site. There's going to be a couple of other things tonight. I have well over 70 speakers cards. I believe that's a record. I don't know. I'd have to go back to some projects in the old days, but I know it's a record for me. Each speaker will be allotted 1 minute because of that. The council eventually has to get to the business that we have to do. So each speaker will be allotted 1 minute. If you require translation, you and your translator will be allotted 1 minute. So if you are using a translator of some sort, that is fine. You will each be allotted 1 minute so we can hear the full 1 minute of your comments. At the last meeting, as promised, I do have 16 speakers who put in cards at the last meeting. If they are here, they will be the first 16 people called, and then I will begin to go through the other 50, 60, close, I think 60 some speakers cards. No more speakers cards as of right now will be accepted. I have a big clip on these so I know which ones are here and which ones aren't. It's going to be very important tonight. I'm going to call 2 speakers. Please, if you're the second speaker called, please queue up behind there so we can keep this moving so we're not waiting as long for people to move about. So do I have any other questions? Great. Those are the rules, and I appreciate that we do that. This will be a great experience for everybody. So with that, we will open the public hearing, and I would like to call Leitner Ruiz, followed by Ernesto Alaman. Is Leitner here? Ruiz? Followed by Ernesto Alaman. Okay. And Ernesto, if you would queue up behind him, that would be great. So Pam, City Clerk Aguilar, we will give, if you could, if you need translation, you need to let us know when you first get up to the mic so that we can give you 2 minutes, a minute for each, essentially.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Leitner Ruiz, and I came to support Rocketship School in Rockett City. I have 2 kids at the school. They love it, and they feel comfortable with the teachers. We know this school has competitive, professional, and excellent teachers. We just want to hear from you, yes, to your vote, because we depend on our children having their own building. And don't forget, these kids are much important than anything. Beforehand, thank you for your understanding and support, because our children deserve a high level of education. That's the only way they can be excellent professionals and find a better job into the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ernesto Alaman, followed by Maritza Leal or Leo. Ernesto? No? Okay. Maritza Leal or Leo, followed by Myrna Robles.
Hi, good evening. It's a pleasure for me to be here again. It's nice to see all of you board members. I just want to let you know that many of the people who submitted speaker cards from the last city council meeting were not able to attend tonight. So as you know, we are working families, and they knew that they were not going to be able to attend, some of them, tonight. So that's why they attend last meeting. So just letting you know that that is what's going on. Thank you.
Okay. Myrna Robles, followed by Manuel Sandoval. Myrna? Manuel Sandoval? Isabel Ocampo? Oh, is this Manuel? Okay. Manuel Sandoval, followed by Isabel Ocampo.
Okay. Buenas tardes a todos. Tengo una niña apenas que entró este año a la escuela. No sabía nada de esto. Pues yo pienso que sería bueno ya darles el permiso para no destruirles el sueño que ellos tienen, tener otra escuela. Yo apenas me enteré hoy día y no sabía que ya tenían 3 años. Pero yo pienso que sería el momento de hacerles el sueño realidad a todos estos niños. Es todo lo que quería decir. Me agarraron de sorpresa, no sabía que iba a hablar ahora aquí, pero yo pienso que es lo mejor para todos los niños. En lugar de estar viendo, ahorita miré muchas licorerías allí, yo pienso que se vería mejor, más hermoso una escuela allí para todos estos niños que están aquí. Eso es todo lo que quiero hablar y buenas noches.
Is there time for translation? Yeah.
Yes.
So what he's saying is he has a daughter and she just started in school, and she has a sense that this is a good time for not to break their dreams or make their dreams come true. He also noticed there's a lot of liquor stores around the area, and he has a sense that it might be better to have a school rather than liquor stores around. That's basically what he said.
Thank you. Isabel Ocampo,
No, no, gracias.
followed by Mayarlor Augusto.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Isabel Ocampo, and I'm a parent leader with Innovate Public Schools. I've been living in the city for about 13 years, and I've been living in this country for 15, 16 years, so this is my place for a long time. I have two daughters. They currently attend schools in Redwood City. I'm here to support and ask you kindly to approve the charter, the 860 Charter Street project. I have experience at firsthand that academic education can open the doors for a new world full of opportunities. But I also know that my community has not been served properly, and they're missing these doors. They have not been able to open those doors for those opportunities. And I also know, I understand that our community, our city is going through many changes, that there's traffic, there's buildings, and everything that you know, we all know.
Okay, your time.
But these children already live in the community.
Thank you. Your time is up. Minor Augusto, followed by Gudelia Quinalas. Minor Augusto? No. First name is spelled Gudelio or A. Present. Ramon Melgoza, followed by Eva Guerrero. Ramon Melgozo. Is this? Is there someone? Is this Ramon? Ramon, come on up. Ramon Melgoza will be followed by Eva Guerrero.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ramon Melgoza, and I reside in 119 Franklin Street in Redwood City. My reason for participating in this Redwood City Council meeting is to show support to the approval of Redwood City Rocketship Prep. As a parent, I have witnessed the results. My daughter, Emily, who this last year was in Rocketship, now is attending 6th grade middle school in Clifford. In her 3 weeks of school, she has now been so proud of being straight A's on all her subjects. In the charter school, I think we need this building is because it deserves a chance in the heart of Fair Oaks. One reason we want to have it in its own building is to flourish because it's the excellent option for our kids around the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Eva Guerrero, followed by Ofek Ravid.
Good evening. My name is Eva Guerrero. I'm a certified medical assistant to open heart surgeons. I am currently a full-time mom to my 5-year-old son. My son was abused and traumatized by his teachers at age 3.5 at one of our local schools, which has changed my son and our lives in so many different ways that it prevented me from going back to work. I've since then learned about Rocketship schools, and I believe that Rocketship would be an excellent fit for my son and a great school for the children in our community and for our city. So tonight I ask that you please open your hearts to the children in our community and make room for the children. Our city is constantly changing and growing in so many different ways that it is our best interest to fight for our children and give them a better education than you and I had, for them to be the best individuals so that they can be. I know that Rocketship is a great foundation for our future leaders and a fantastic school for our city. I ask that
Your
you
time
trust
is
in
up.
the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ofek Ravid. Ofek? No. Matilda Villa-Gomez? Okay. Adriana Garcia? Okay. This just has the name Rocketship supporter Rosanna. Rosanna? Is there a Rosanna here to speak? Rosanna, are you coming? And she'll be followed by Arturo Del Val.
Good evening, everyone, council members. I do not have anything written down, but I do want to share that I support Rocketship and all the schools that are doing great in our district. And I believe that having Rocketship here will help our community be successful in the future. And I'm a student at San Jose State, and we always talk about justice studies and all that stuff. And I believe that in order to prevent kids from even entering the juvenile hall and go to that school to prison pipeline, we need to have great schools and access to good schools that prepare the kids for a better future. And, so one day they could become, they could work at Stanford, or they could be engineers or building their houses and just being successful. And, thank you.
Thank you. Arturo Del Val? Arturo? No. Jose Hernandez? Jose Hernandez? Okay. Let me get to the other speak. Is this Jose? Nope. Let me get to, wasn't sure. We have a stool available. I should have said that at the beginning. Okay, I'm going to get to these speakers cards. Again, I will call two names. If you've already spoken, if your name is, please remind me, we will not have you speak twice. It starts with Dennis Denalian, followed by Christina Bauer. Dennis? Is Dennis coming? No. Okay, we're not off to a great start there. Hold on a minute. This is Christina Bauer. Okay, she will be followed by Steve Whitty. Perfect.
Hi, I'm Christina. I manage a business at 820 Willow Street, a plumbing wholesaler. My customers are mainly plumbers and contractors that are coming in to our back pipe yard on Charter Street. So when people are talking about the trucks coming in and out, those are mainly my customers coming in, delivery trucks. Want to reiterate what Dave said earlier. We're not against the school or the parents or the teachers or anything like that. Mainly the location is our biggest concern. It's an industrial area. There's lots of trucks coming in and out, and safety is my number one concern. So that's the reason why I'm here, and I don't think it's a good location for this school.
Thank you. Steve Whitty, followed by Brent Britschke.
I'm glad to be here. So I have two recent occurrences that I want to share with you. The first was this morning. I work at Jim Lord Landscape Services right across the street from the proposed school site. And at 8:08, I took off and turned left on Charter and got to Bay Road. Couldn't go across the intersection because from Broadway to Bay was gridlock. It's from Summit High School and for people going to work and when, whatever else is going on at that time of day. Took me 4 minutes to get from Bay to Broadway on Charter. We had another school right there at that corner and back it up. It's going to back up back to Hoover. I don't know how kids are going to be able to get to school. I don't know how businesses are going to be able to operate. The second is the gas thing that we brought up with the Planning Commission. We unfortunately get inundated with LP gas odor to the effect of nausea and headaches. It happened about 2 or 3 weeks ago, just most recently. So those are two things I want you to be aware are going on in the neighborhood. We already have gridlock. So thank you.
Thank you. Brent Britschke, followed by Kathy Soulard.
Do I only get 1 minute?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. As a 8-year city councilman and former mayor of Redwood City, I've been involved in many of these type things before. And believe it or not, I don't know any of these gentlemen who are here tonight. But I have been opposed to putting the charter school in this location ever since I first read about it. And I believe that the people here who have their businesses don't deserve to have to put up with the traffic and all of the other problems in that area, and that's why I'm opposed to it. In reading the staff report today, and it's interesting that this gentleman talked about gas. I hope that you've read about gas underneath this building. Have you read about that? Because there is a Department of Toxic Substance which will be monitoring the gas, and there's some sort of gas meter underneath the building that's got to be taken care of. So would you please put some time into looking at that?
Thank you. Kathy Szilard, followed by Josh Portner.
Hi, I'm Kathy Szilard. This move by Rocketship would have terrible impacts on the neighborhood. The consultants for the Livable Streets program, funded by Stanford, compiled neighborhood recommendations to improve the Village neighborhood, Friendly Acres, and North Fair Oaks. This was to create attractive neighborhood boundaries, discourage cut-through traffic, and to offer elements to calm traffic and improve the quality of life for the neighborhood. They asked, what improvements would you like to see in your neighborhood streets? The top two answers were about parking and overall neighborhood appearance. Approving this project would be contrary to both items. Many residents have multiple family members, friends, renters in their space. Owners are expanding driveways with cementing yards so they can park more vehicles on their property. Street parking remains limited. Expanding driveways on streets with roll-up sidewalks like mine has eliminated public parking. Our neighborhood is never going to win one of the city's beautification awards. Survey asked, what are your top preferences for traffic calming measures? 4 of the 5 top responses were definitely related to pedestrian safety. Residents believe walking is risky and needs to be safer, and from personal experience, it has to be. Whoa, okay.
I think that was probably the most in 1 minute. Should consider being an auctioneer.
I don't know if that's fair.
All right. Josh Portner, if we could hold on, Josh.
Yes,
if we could keep the noise down a little bit, please. Thank you. Josh Portner, followed by Carrie Chen.
There you go. Mayor Siemert and council members, my name is Josh Portner. Tonight I'm here representing the Board of Directors of Rebuilding Together Peninsula. It is with a heavy heart that I come before you to voice support of the appeal and rejection of the previously approved CEQA and CUP for the Redwood City Planning Commission. Simply put, last week we met with representatives of the Rocketship organization. They assert that children of Redwood City will come. They're a charter school. They cannot commit to that. By evaluating sites, Rocketship Development called a few brokers. That's not evaluating site. That's calling some real estate brokers. Please approve the appeal before you this evening. Contract the Redwood City School District Superintendent and use the full weight of council to convince them to definitely extend their agreement at their current location and connect Rocketship with the development opportunities in the area. These could include the Inner Harbor Specific Plan, the large project at Woodside and Bay, and other projects which is more conducive to a school site. Rebuilding Together Peninsula is willing to commit the full weight of our board and networking abilities to these efforts. Please make this a win-win-win.
Carrie Chen, followed by Rob Lasher.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Pang Chen, and I am the Associate Director for Rebuilding Together Peninsula. We purchased our property at 841 K9 Street in fall 2017, which is at the rear of the proposed Rocketship site. We quickly learned there is virtually no parking ever available during the day on K9 or surrounding streets. So our small parking lot and warehouse loading areas at the rear of our building became the primary way for staff, volunteers, clients, and delivery trucks to access our building from Charter Street. Our easement serves as the main artery for all of our activities. The proposed parking and turnaround adjacent to the easement is only sufficient for subcompact cars, and while we've been told that there will only be staff parking in subcompact cars, we're not sure how that can be actually enforced. Rather than placing the school into the heart of an industrial area already overwhelmed by traffic, parking, and environmental safety concerns, it would be a better use of all of our resources to look at other development options in the community and leveraging community benefits agreements for safer school spaces that are needed for Rocketship, KIPP, and other school charters. Thank you.
Rob Lasher, followed by Michael Kastrop.
Good evening. I'm located at 909 Broadway, diagonal from the Summit School and across the street from Pent Air. Currently, I have parents using my parking lot, blocking my driveways as a pickup and drop-off location. it's only going to get worse. If the other school starts to see this, it's going to double the event. I ask that you reconsider where the school is. If you look at the school now, the kids look great. The school seems to be great. Why not try to keep it exactly where it is? It's much better for the kids. It doesn't impact the community. It's safer for them where they're located. Summit School had a shooting 2 years ago. They had to put the kids out in the street. I'd hate to see all these kids have to go out in the street. The impact...
Thank you. Mike Kastrop, followed by Michael Chernolsky.
Good evening, Mayor Siebert and council members. My name is Mike Kastrop, and I live in Redwood Village neighborhood for over 30 years now and own an architecture firm on the same block as the proposed project. In my professional opinion, this is a terrible location for a high school, or excuse me, for a school for several reasons. The drop-off pickup at Rocketship proposes it will only accommodate 9 cars in the on-site drop-off area at a time. And if you do the math, this only allows an average of 4 to 7 seconds per car to enter and leave the property. It's not enough. These cars will join the parade of parents already dropping off their kids at Hoover, Kip, and Summit. The delays will create gridlock with long lines. They'll obstruct the local businesses for blocks around and trap residents who live in Redwood Village. And just personally, it'll disrupt my business and prevent my employees and clients from reaching my office in those time frames.
Thank you. Michael Chernolsky, followed by Christian Black. Michael? Oh, there you are. Christian? Thank you. Michael, go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, council members. Let's go quickly. The rear parking area is too small for the use of parking for 8 automobiles and a large garbage dumpster. It's lacking the adequate amount of turnaround space for even subcompact cars to maneuver. Slide 2. Harry? Let's see. Ironically, the city of Redwood City has labeled this substandard parking. Not to mention a electrical cabinet that further obscures the ability to move around within that space to ingress, egress. It removes the ability for me to get my work truck out the doorway right there. If those spaces were occupied, I can't work. So it causes an economic hardship to me in my daily business operations. I've been using this privately gated area for nearly 15 years. I have prescriptive easement rights to it. The minimum amount of parking for the proposed plan, therefore, cannot be met as required. There's high voltage power lines.
Christian Black?
Yes.
They'll be followed by Bruce R. Stewart. Bruce R. Stewart.
Thank you. I'm waiting for a slide.
It's fine.
My name is Christian Black, and I work at a painting company on the same block as the proposed location. On this aerial shot, this was taken last Thursday morning at 8 a.m. The horizontal road is Charter Street. The purple square is the proposed location, and the red dotted line, dashed line, is the proposed queue. If you look from the left of the screen all the way to the right of the screen, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic there right now. So to add 200 plus cars there every morning would create complete gridlock in the area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bruce R. Stewart, followed by Stephanie Black.
I think this one slide sort of says it all. The delivery trucks parallel park. So then it necks the street down to one lane. So people just go around. So then you have basically oncoming traffic, and it's just very unsafe. There's zero clearance on most of the buildings. They sit right on the sidewalk. It's pretty hard to see little bodies walking by. But my point really is that Rocketship's best efforts have failed to mitigate the traffic situation.
they've done a lot. They've tried really hard. They're a very professional group, but I just don't see that they can change the existing conditions by, promising queue times or promising a certain amount of pedestrian traffic or promising carpooling. It doesn't change the existing conditions, which are already overloaded. So on that note, I don't see how it could get any better. It'll certainly only get worse.
Thank you. Stephanie Black, followed by Catherine Renz.
So I'm a mother of 2 children. They're elementary school aged, so I do drop off and pick up every day. I'm also the program director of a nonprofit, and I'm the president of the neighborhood association there. And I have to say that I did hear that they're saying that a lot of outreach has been done, and coming from a community member and an employee at Stewart Painting and someone who is familiar with the outreach that needs to happen in a community, I have to say that it has not met any kind of expectations that I would have for a school coming into a neighborhood. And I've dealt with this kind of thing quite often. Also, I have to say that the parking and the traffic situation is unsafe, and this is an incorrect land use for this neighborhood. You could see in the pictures that there's already no parking and there's already gridlock traffic at 8 a.m. And I'm nervous about crossing the street. I have trouble finding parking. And that's the existing situation without adding a school on that block. I would also like to say that a study from Safe Kids USA showed that 1 in 6 drivers in school zones is driving distracted. Thank you.
Thank you. Loriana Kastrop. Oh, I'm sorry, Catherine.
Yes.
Catherine Renz,
Yes.
followed by Loriana Kastrop.
Thank you. I'm also here to speak about the potential traffic problems on Charter Street. I currently have a business at 816 Charter, and just in the deliveries that we get on a weekly basis from 4 companies, traffic is blocked with an 18-wheeler 4 days a week between 8 and 10 a.m. So I don't know where this traffic is going to go once the school comes along. Also, many of our businesses from K9 and Charter Street all use the gas station. I mean, we pull landscape trucks, delivery trucks into that gas station. So once we've left the block, we haven't left it. We're still gassing up there, adding to the gridlock. So I would ask that you not approve this site based just on the gridlock that we're experiencing prior to the school coming in. Thank you.
You, Loriana Kastrop, followed by Bart Adams.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm a resident of Redwood Village and a business owner on the block of the proposed site. Rocketship has never contacted my business nor my residents. The CEQA study was inadequate because the upcoming Sobrato project and Stanford Phase 2 were not included. The other 3 schools in our neighborhood were not addressed in terms of queuing in the traffic study. We have gridlock already. Hundreds of cars will be queued on narrow 2-lane streets, wrapping out round corners onto side streets and residential streets. Again, 4 seconds per car is allowed in the traffic study. That's not enough. That's safe for children to offload, even with staff supervision. Redwood Village uses Spring Street as a primary access road. We will be trapped in our neighborhood during the critical parts of the day to get to work. The streets will be too congested for emergency vehicle access, really critical for both the residents and the children at the school. It's not consistent with the elements and objectives of the general plan, and so on. The CUP
Your time is up.
Not complete. Please, I urge you to uphold the appeal.
Bart Adams, followed by Sophia Castillo.
I am a business owner in this district, in this area. I find that the putting children into an unsafe environment is a poor choice by the City Council. The study used not 18-wheelers loaded with 80,000 pounds of goods, but small vehicle cars. A car can stop very quickly. An 18-wheeler cannot. The exposure to these students is horrendous. Having them in an environment that they can be killed, hurt, or maimed for location when they're in a safe location now is an unacceptable risk. Any child is a valuable asset to our society. Having these childs at risk is not a sensible decision.
Thank you. Sofia Castillo, followed by Jason Garcia. Take your time. There you go.
Hello, my name is Sophia, and I am on first grade. I would like to share what I feel as a student. When my cousin asks me where my school, I don't know where my school really is, and that makes me feel bad because I don't have a school in a stable place. I would really like my school to have a place to play safe and also a cafeteria and a bigger bathroom where you do not have to wait so long to be able to go. I know where I live in front of Costco, we have a lot of traffic and it is difficult to drive, but also no.
Thank you. Well, parents, I'm going to ask for a little bit of help with the timing on this, or we're going to be here well past bedtimes. Jason Garcia will be followed by Heidi Nolasco.
Good evening. My name is Jason Garcia, and I am currently in third grade. Students and teachers deserve a new school so we can call our own, where we don't have to share our bathroom and have our own playground, so we don't get distracted with other schools that we share campus with. Due to the different schedules, we can't be sharing schools every school year. We want to be able to bond to our school building. These business owners seem to be concerned about our safety. Well, let me share with them what is not safe and healthy for us is to be sitting and in an unwanted classroom that belongs to the district with no AC and really high temperatures throughout the day.
Thank you. Heidi Nolasco, followed by Francisca Rotengun.
Hello, I'm Heidi. You probably know that by now because I'm always advocating for Rocketship.
Whoa. Guys.
Let me just start off by saying that you should get this all over with and say yes. Here's why. I think we deserve this school because we have worked so hard to earn it, and I think we have earned it by now, and so has everyone else. It has taken us so long to get a building that in a year soon, I'm going to go into 6th grade, and most of us won't be able to enjoy a school building of our own. How are we going to remember elementary school? I'll tell you how. We're going to remember spending 3 years fighting for a school building we would not be able to get if the people from the district said no. And I know some of you think that us kids don't understand most of this, but we understand plenty enough to know that it has taken enough time to build a school building for students to learn in. This school has a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you. Francisca, with her last name, Rotengun, followed by Aurora Aurora.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Francisca Rodríguez. El tráfico. Señores, tráfico hay en todos lados. Los señores lo único que están peleando son los parqueaderos porque no van a poder dónde estacionar sus trocas. Por favor, voten por los niños, no trocas. Se los pido. Son muy importantes los niños.
Hello, my name is, good evening to everybody. My name is Francisca Rodriguez. I am a mom, and everybody here is fighting over parking lot and cars. I'm asking you to vote for children, not to be concerned about your trucks and your parking lot. I really urge you to consider our children in this decision.
Rocketship tiene 3 años de experiencia dejando y recogiendo niños y no ha habido ningún accidente. Y los papás somos responsables de nuestros hijos de la seguridad. Ningún niño camina solo. Y al poner la escuela ahí, muchos papás podemos ir caminando. Por favor, voten por los niños.
Rocketship has 3 years of experience of taking their children to school and back. Us as parents are responsible for every single student. We make sure that every single student is never alone. When they're walking, they're with the parents. So when you're considering, and we're in charge of their safety as well, so when you're considering this, you need to be voting for the children. Thank you.
Thank you. Arroyo, followed by Melanie Rodriguez.
Hi, my name is Aurora Arroyo. Good evening. I am a first grade at Rocketship Prep. I want my school because I want to be in a better environment. I would love to have a bigger playground. I would like for you to vote yes to build our school. Please, thank you.
Also, I'm a mom of Aurora Arroyo, and I'm asking you to please vote yes. Our kids really need a building, a home, and we also want to, all of us are here tonight to support. I understand for you guys that you're concerned about everything, about our parking, about the space, and thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. Melanie Rodriguez, followed by Walter Moreno.
Hello, my name is Melanie. I am a 5th grader. I think we should get our school because we work really hard every day at Rocketship. We have been waiting for 2 years to get this school. We have support from our parents that are part of this community to get our new school. A school where we can learn and get an amazing education so that one day we can go to college and get an amazing career. So please give us our school because we have been working very hard to get this school. And even if I'm not going to be Rocketship next year because I will be moving to middle school, I want all the younger grades to have this school because they really deserve it. So please give us our school.
Thank you. Walter Moreno, followed by Elizabeth Quinteros. Walter? Okay. Elizabeth is coming up, followed by Leticia Gomez.
Hello, everyone. I would like to address the issue from the PowerPoint from the appellant. I would like to address the barbed wire. Rocketship's #1 priority is adapting to the situation. I'm very sure that they'll put an opposing fence to guard children from any injury. The liquor stores don't sell to minors. That shouldn't be an issue. Gas hazards are regulated and have to be contained in certain areas and spaces and within a certain degree. Guard dog looks adorable. Industrial areas are better for schools than residential. There's many concerns that I would address with that. The noise, industrial noise would not be interrupted by the sound of children playing. The hours are perfect. We don't need the streets for more than maybe 1 hour a day. The traffic for residential areas has always been congested because Redwood City lacks public school busing. This is something that we, as our city begins to grow and we begin to develop, it's desperately needed by parents. And Rocketship is willing to provide shuttles for our parents. Thank you.
Leticia Gomez, followed by Joel Garcia.
Hi, good evening. My name is Leticia Ramasolones Leti Gomez, and I am a parent leader from Rocketship Fuerza Community Prep in East San Jose. I'm here tonight to support the Redwood City families because I know firsthand the importance of having our own school in our own neighborhood. These families deserve to be able to walk to school for their children. My daughter's school is also located in a very high, busy street in San Jose. There are as many concerns that were given by those opposed to the school site. Yes, there's a liquor store, there's a gas station near my daughter's school, yet Rocketship works with our community to ensure our kids' safety, and they make sure they have controls in place for the safety of our children. Our immigrant families are already feeling very intimidated by our U.S. government. And also, we're feeling intimidated by these business loan earners by thinking that because you have money, you have the right to get what you want. We families and our Rocketship Redwood City families deserve their school in their neighborhood. Please, thank you.
Joel Garcia. Mr. Garcia is coming, followed by Valena Carrillo. Valena Carrillo will be after Mr. Joel Garcia. There he is.
Hi, my name is Jael Garcia. I support Rocketship because we need our own building. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Valena, is it Valena?
Valeria.
Okay, sorry about that. Ms. Carrillo, followed by Eddie Marroquin.
Hi, my name is Valeria Carrillo. I am a Rocketship student, and please say yes for our building because for the last couple of years, we've been sharing schools with other students. It's really hard to work with. And I want to say please say yes for our new school building for next year. Don't block our dreams. Thank you.
Eddie Marroquin, followed by Edouard Rodriguez.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Eddie Marroquin. I will focus on 3 follow points. As a mother of 3 kids, I came to ask to vote yes in our project. You might ask why. I know this building is safe for my children because Rocketship has good staff and they teach us how to follow the rules. Everyone knows the foundation for our kids to go to college is first 5 years of school, elementary school. Rocketship is giving our kids the foundation they need to go to college. These kids, Rocketeers, know the university they want to go and the college they want to go. My eldest son didn't have the opportunity for education like this. If don't push him to tell about careers or which college he want to go, didn't go. Last but not least, why do not you give us this generation the opportunity to have their own building rather than allow more technology companies? Thank you.
Edouard Rodriguez, followed by Myra Torres.
Hello, my name is Edouard Rodriguez, and we deserve our own school because it is not fair that other schools get their own school, but we don't. And I hope you guys vote yes so we could get our own school.
Myra Torres, followed by Angelina Gonzalez.
Good evening. I'm here. I have 2 Rocketeers currently. Jason, who's a 3rd grade, and I have this little one who's a kindergarten. I want a school in our community. I was born and raised in this community. I have currently 2 siblings who are attending high school at Sacred Heart and Atherton. Why do we have to push our children to go to other communities when we have our own? It just breaks my heart. To really have to be here at 8:30 when our kids should be in bed by now. Why do we have to be here currently fighting these business owners who are really concerned about the safety? No, they're not concerned about the safety of our children. They're just concerned about their business parking spaces. Don't you think that it's great that you guys are growing your business and you guys need more space? Maybe it's time for you guys to move to a bigger building. Maybe you guys need something bigger. I understand we are a small community, but we stand one another. We're here to support our children. We understand that you guys need your space, but we need our children to have a better education as well.
Angelina Gonzalez, followed by Vicky Vizcarra.
Hello, my name is Angie, and I'm in 5th grade. I think you should give us our school because we've been working hard for this, and this is our last chance for us to get this school for TK, Kinder, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, so they will have their own school. This is why you need to say yes.
Vicky Vizcarra, followed by Lily Hernandez.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Vicky Vizcarra. Soy madre de 4 hijas.
Good night. My name is Vicky Vizcarra. I am a mother of 4.
Mis 2 hijas menores asisten a Rocketship, donde los motivan día tras día y dicen que les motivan a ellos, que ellos son el futuro.
My kids attend Rocketship, and day by day they get encouraged to be better and create a better future.
Y cómo hacerlo para asistir a la universidad y así tener una mejor calidad de vida.
And how to become a person that goes to university and have a better quality of life.
Confiamos en Rocketship que este sería un lugar seguro y no pondrían en riesgo la salud de nuestros hijos.
We're trusting that Rocketship will be a safe place that will not harm the health of our children.
Nosotros como padres de familia estamos aquí para pedirles que por favor le den la oportunidad a nuestros hijos de tener su propia escuela. Gracias.
We, as parents, are here beside you, by you, asking, please give us a chance to have and give our children their own school. Thank you.
Lily Hernandez, followed by Eva Guerrero. I had an Eva Guerrero earlier. Is that a repeat card? It is. Okay, so actually followed by Brian Silvano.
Hello, my name is Liliana. I am a 5th grader. I think we need the school because the fact that we have been here for 3 years means it is a good school. When I was first starting at Rocketship, I was at a 1st grade step level. And by the end of that year, I was at a 3rd grade step level. Rocketship helped me get there. Math used to be complicated, but for me. But with my Rocketship teachers, math is a lot easier for me. And I know how to add and subtract decimals now. These are just some reasons why we deserve our school. Thank you.
Brian Silvano, followed by Roxana Enriquez.
Hi, my name is Brian. It is not fair that other schools get buildings and we don't. And I want you to vote yes so other kids that are going to Rocketship can enjoy the school. So we can have our own water fountain, our own bathrooms, and our own classrooms, and our own classes. Thank you.
Thank you. Roxana Enriquez, followed by Alexander Lopez Moreno. Okay. Okay. It's hard to keep track, so thank you for Alexander Lopez Moreno. No show? Or I believe Emma Obando, followed by Emma, followed by Paulo Martinez.
Hello, my name is Emma. Hello, my name is Emma Obando. I'm in 3rd grade at Rocketship. Since I've been at this school, they taught me and my classmates core values like bravery, responsibility, respect, empathy, persistence. Our school location is small and we don't even have a playground or cafeteria. We are growing as a school and we need more room as a school. I am proud to call myself a Rocketeer because I love this school. You can help our school continue to teach these core values by help.
Thank you. Paulo Martinez, followed by Francisco Flores.
Hi, my name is Paulo Martinez. I am a 6th grader at KIP Excelencia. I don't know much about politics, but I've always attended my mom's meetings with KIP and Innovate. What I understand is that these parents want the best education for their children. They want us to be prepared and continue living in Redwood City, our city and our community. Rocketship and KIP are giving us tools we need to go to college. My community does not have financial resources to pay for private schools, and for this reason, I ask for you to consider voting in favor of Rocketship. I want to close with a quote I like from Victor Hugo. He who opens a school door closes a prison. Thank you.
Thank you. Francisco Flores, followed by Alejandra Garcia Cordoba. Francisco? Oh, okay. Alejandra Garcia Cordoba. Alejandra? Okay, here comes Alejandra. Alejandra will be followed by Luz Jaramillo.
Mi hija está un poco triste porque escucha mucho acerca de lo que es el parking. Ella anhela y desea realmente lo que es la escuela. Esperemos que esto no sea un motivo por el cual les quiten la ilusión a estos niños. Ellos están entusiasmados, ellos quieren tener su baño grande, tener donde jugar, tener su propia cafetería. Espero y nos puedan decir sí. Esperamos su voto.
My daughter feels very sad right now because she's hearing all of these comments. She really wants to have a school where she can have her own restrooms, her own water fountain, and I'm urging you to really consider her. Our children shouldn't have to feel this way and shouldn't have to be here right now. You need to be voting for our children. Gracias. Oh, thank you.
Luz Jaramillo, followed. Yeah, I know. I'm just calling your name. Hold on. I've got to hold on.
Ready.
I've got to call the next name, and then you can start. Athena Ibarra. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to ask you all to vote with consistent recommendations of the Redwood City planning staff, your own appointed planning commissioners, and your city staff who all determined that this project should be approved. Most of the buildings you've approved are not really targeted for low-income families. They're mostly targeted for very high educated people who, of course, got a very good education. So they can afford one-bedroom apartment, $3,000 or $5,000 a month. So I really ask you to think about what are we approving. What are you approving for us, low-income families? How are we fitting in your development plan? That would be very interesting to know. How do we all fit into your beautiful, because it's beautiful plan, all these huge buildings? How are we fitting there? Because I really don't see much. Thank you.
Athena Ibarra, followed by Leitner Ruiz.
Hello, my name is Athena Ibarra, and I've been in Rocketship for 3 years. I think we deserve a school because we need our own space. Even though this is my last year at Rocketship, I still want. I think we deserve a school because we need our own space. Even though this is my last year at Rocketship, I still want the others and new students to have a school so they can have their own things and experiment cool things at Rocketship. I learned a lot in this school, like being respectful to others. Please say yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Leitner Ruiz. Okay, and I have another Jason Garcia. Is that's I had one earlier. I know that. That's a repeat also. Is there two Jason Garcias? Okay. What What's that? If I understand that, but if he already spoke, he had his time. If I did that for everybody, everybody would get 2 minutes. So Diana Nolasco, followed by Luis Villagomez.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, City Councils. I'm a mother of 2 children at Rocketship. You already know one of my girls, Heidi Benitez. Nolasco, they put on her. Everybody's worried about the issues of traffic. And guess what? We are dealing with traffic. I have to drive to Woodside to drop my kids to school at 7 a.m. And we are not worried about that. My kids woke up at 6 o'clock to take breakfast, dressed up, and go to school. Why we have to be driving all the way to another community to be in our school that they don't even want to share cafeteria, bathrooms? There's only 2 bathrooms for our kids, and that's unfair. And we're talking about unfair or parking lots, traffic. Guess what? We are going to be dealing for the next future generations traffic and more traffic for the buildings that are being constructed. So why do we have to be driving all the way there? Please vote yes. Thank you.
Luis Villagomez, followed by Emily Ibarra.
Good evening. My name is Luis Villagomez. I'm a 5th grader. I would like to ask you to please give us the signature to have our own school. We need our own soccer field and to have PE. We are the future of Redwood City, and I'm thinking about the next generation of children that need a good school and also good teachers like all teachers from Rocketship. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Ibarra, followed by Patty Lopez.
Hi, my name is Emily Ibarra, and I go to Rocketship, and I love it. First, when I went to Rocketship, I did not know anything at all, but now since I'm in third grade, I learned a lot. During the years, I got smarter and smarter because of Rocketship, and now I'm got a lot, but give us children a school. Thank you, Rocketship.
Thank you. Patty Lopez, followed by Sebastian Gill.
My name is Patricia Lopez. I'm with Innovate Public School for the last 5 years, and I am mother of TK at Rocketship, and I just want to read a letter for you. I operate a business near the proposed Rocketship facility at 860 Charles Street, and I urge you to approve the project. The families who live in this neighborhood patron local businesses like mine. We depend on local customers to stay in business. And the best way to keep families in this area is to provide their children a high-quality school in the neighborhood where they live. Parents know what's best for their kids. Please give the families who live in our neighborhood a chance at a better future. Please vote yes to approve the Rocketship site at 860 Charter Street. And also the letter is in Spanish, and I give this to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Sebastian Gill, followed by Alma Gaitan.
Hi, I am Sebastian Contreras. I'm gonna fight for my own school to have a bigger bathroom, because then they're gonna have a more than MC. Thank you.
Thank you. Alma, sorry, the last name, Gaitan. Alma? Okay, Millie Valverde. Oh, is Alma here? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Alima. Apologize, Alima. She'll be followed by Millie Valverde.
Hi, my name is Alina Gaitan. The students, teachers, and families at Rocketship Redwood City Prep are in need of a building for our school. We believe that we do not have the appropriate location to better our learning. To improve, we here believe that we need a building that we can call ours, where we can have a library which will provide us with a quiet reading space, as well as a large selection of books, where we can have a proper playground to develop social skills and do exercise to have a healthy life. A building would also allow the right space for a cafeteria, so we can have a real place to eat our lunch. Eating in classrooms.
Millie, thank you. Millie Valverde, followed by Jackie Weiler.
Hi, my name is Millie Valverde Paulino, and I am a student in a Rocketeer in Rocketship Redwood City Prep. And judges, we deserve a new school building because we work hard and we are proud about our, proud to be a Rocketeers because we care about our learning and keeping our school clean. And if you say no, it's not fair because other schools get to have new schools buildings and we don't. One more time, if you say no, me and my whole school are going to stand up for our new school building, and we deserve it because we work hard. And if you can't see that, thank you.
Thank you. Jackie Weiler, followed by Abby Rodriguez.
Good evening. My name is Jackie Weiler. I'm the parent of a Rocketeer. I'm here to ask you to please vote yes for our school. I'm here not only as a parent, but I'm also a first-generation American, and I understand the plight of these families as well as my own family. I wasn't always offered the same services as my friends that were not first-generation American. There are no schools in our area that rank well. Out of the 4 schools in the area, I looked today on greatschools.com, and all of them were ranked poorly. Rocketship is giving our children a chance at having a future. We're just asking for basic stuff. I mean, our children here are asking for bathrooms, for cafeterias. If it's possible to work with the people in the community and have deliveries delivered at nighttime. They did this in 1989 during the earthquake. We're willing to work with you, but we just want basic needs for our children. And all we're asking is to give them a chance to have a school where they can learn, they can actually have a bathroom, that they don't have to wait 2 hours to use. Thank you.
Thank you. Abby Rodriguez, followed by Angel De Leon.
Hi, my name is Abby Rodriguez. I've been living in Redwood City for a long time. And I've been to Rocketship since first grade. And I've been helping others, advocating for others. I want a new building because it's not fair that other schools get another building and we don't. And if we use the bathroom and other children have to wait for a long time to waste their time. Thank you.
Thank you. Angel.
Hello, my name is Angel. Redwood City, Rocketship wants a building. Before we wanted a building since since I came to the school last year. I was wanting to become a Rocketeer. You should be proud of yourself because you're a Rocketeer, and you should vote yes because.
Thank you. Lilia Zepeda, followed by Isabella Chu. Lilia, I'm sorry I didn't call your name earlier, but come on up. I didn't give you a chance to get up. Followed by Isabella Chu.
Hello, good evening, council members. I came here tonight to read my letter, but instead when I walked in, I saw all these Rocketship students and I was blown away. So instead I'm going to speak from my heart. And I love education, I love kids. That's great that your program is doing good. However, listening to Dave's developmental plan from your building structures, that doesn't sound too safe. I believe that the kids should have their own bathroom and their own cafeteria. However, listening to Dave's, I think that the school should be moved to another location. Charter Street is already impacted with Hoover School. It's already impacted by Summit School, and bringing in another 400 students to the street is going to impact it greatly. 400 students means 800. This is going to be very impacted street.
Thank you. Isabella Chu.
Good evening, Council. My name is Isabella Chu, and I live in the neighborhood where the proposed school is going to be. And it's interesting to me that the bulk of appeals have centered on traffic, parking, the easy operation of cars and trucks. It would appear that cars have come to occupy such an exalted position in our society that they trump virtually every other concern, including the ability to get an education. Many appellants have framed their objections as safety concerns. It's insulting to assume that anyone would care more about the safety of these children than their own parents. It's also true that the best way to improve pedestrian safety is to slow down cars and have more pedestrians and cyclists. One of the strongest determinants of health, future income, and long-term prosperity is the quality and duration of education. We would all have preferred that the perfect site at the perfect price was available, but this is Silicon Valley, and it's not. This is the only way forward for this school, and I urge you to uphold the decision of the Planning Commission to look after the future health and well-being of these children and to uphold this choice to allow the school to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Concludes our speakers' cards. I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. A motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Here's how the council will do. I know it's getting late, but we're just getting started up here. So I'm going to need you to still sit still and be quiet while we do a little work up here. What I'm going to do, council members, is I'm going to ask you to go through any clarifying questions or questions that you have of staff, of the various CEQA people that are here, that kind of thing. Then we will come back for a second round of comments and see what the council wants to do. So with that, who wants to start with questions? Councilwoman Mazur.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's always lively when you have kids in the audience, so thanks you guys for coming to testify. I appreciate it. So I have quite a few questions, and I'm going to start with Rocketship because I want to follow up on some of the questions that Vice Mayor Bain asked at the beginning. So my first question for you is, you indicated that you spoke to staff before you signed a lease agreement, and I'm just wondering if you could share with me what the staff response was to you about that location.
Our initial conversations about the site, as I indicated, were back in September, October 2014. So frankly, I don't recall the exact response of staff in those conversations. It was with Lisa Constantiner, so maybe it'd be better to ask her directly.
Good evening. Aaron Acknan, I'm the Assistant City Manager and Community Development Director. It was a couple years ago, so I don't remember. I think obviously we pointed out that, yes, this is a very tricky site. For number one, from a jurisdictional standpoint, it's half in the city, half in the county. We obviously said you're going to have to do a lot of community outreach. You're going to have to solve some of these traffic and parking issues, and that's what it's been about for the last 2 years. So I think it was pretty obvious that this is a tricky site overall, and as we do with anyone in the initial meeting, as we point out the challenges that there is going to be with any application.
Okay, thank you. So you showed a lot of pictures of your community outreach. I've been to some of your community outreach events, and I just want to be clear, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is most of those community outreach events were about attracting kids to attend Rocketship. They weren't about, do you think this is a good site for our school? Can you support our school? Is that correct?
I would say that's not correct.
Okay, so you went to where to talk to people about your site?
So the community meetings that were in the community outreach outline, there were 6 of those, and those were community meetings that were noticed to the public.
Okay, so
and
who
the Fair
attended
Oaks
those?
community. I'm sorry?
Who attended those?
We have sign-in sheets for every event, and I can probably attest to many of the people that are sitting here in the first 2 rows.
Is that...
Whoa, guys,
Okay.
whoa. Hey,
I don't
guys.
need yelling.
Okay, hold on, I'm going to stop. The school rules apply to you, too. I know some of you sitting there know better than that because you've been in this position before, correct? Okay, good. Then we're not going to have that again, all right? Thank you.
The events that you're referring to in terms of the community events have been different events that the parents have been part of as members of the community and talking to other parents and letting them know about the school.
Right.
We're all here
That's-
today, and we're not recruiting for any families at all.
But
So
no, I understand that this is a very different thing
Yes.
than... I'm very familiar with the startup of Rocketship, having been on the school board when the charter was approved.
Yes.
So I'm quite familiar with the types of events that Rocketship puts on. And the ones that I've been to and that I've seen, none of them have had anything to do with the actual school site, what's about the school site, anything that's about, how is this school site going to work with the neighborhood? So that's why I asked that question.
yes.
Okay. So can you talk to me about the staggered start times?
Sure. We have staggered arrival times, 7 to 7:15 for 120 students, 7:15 to 7:30 for 150, 7:30 to 7:45 for 190 students, and late arrival, we're anticipating 20 students, and that's between 7:45 and 8. And the parents would be assigned ahead of the school year to one of those groups and expected to show up to drop off their kid during that time.
Okay. So I guess this next question, I'm not sure who is the right person to answer. So might be planning staff, might be you guys, I'm not really sure. But there was a mention in one of the testimony that the queue that you devised in front of the school only hold 9 cars. Can somebody help me with that?
The 9-car space is the number of cars that would actively be loading or unloading students at the time. There's also space for at least another 9 to 11 vehicles queued up behind them, but also within the site.
Off the street.
I'm Michelle Hunt from Hexagon Transportation Consultants. We did the traffic study.
Okay. So off the street, you could have max 18 cars.
It depends on how close they stack. I would say maximum of 20, 18 to 20. These aren't marked spaces.
I'm familiar with school drop-off thing. I have 3 kids of my own, and I've done a lot of school drop-off, so I get it. So if you have 190 people arriving in a 15-minute window, and you can say, let's just be generous and say that you can have 20 cars in the queue, and say you got the trip generation rate of 0.96, which was in what we read, you're still talking about at least 100 cars that are backing up onto the street.
Actually, that's not correct, because the trip generation rate of 0.96 includes inbound trips as well as outbound trips, so only half of them would be inbound. There's quite a high percentage of students who are expected to walk or bicycle, or also arrive in carpools, so that they're not just one student per one vehicle.
Well, I guess for my purposes and trying to think about it from a planning and sort of understanding how to count things, I need to use the trip generation rate that was provided to us. So
I understand, but that 0.96 includes, like I said, inbound and outbound. The trips are considered one-way trips, so approximately half of that is an inbound trip. The other half are outbound trips. So one vehicle who's coming into the site and then leaving is counted as two trips.
Okay, so if I could just finish then. So then you're maybe talking about like 30 cars lining up onto Charter Street in a 15-minute period.
That would be true if it took 15 minutes to drop off a student, but the students don't take 15 minutes to drop off. Would you like me to explain how we came up with our queue estimates?
Sure.
We have gone out and done observations at other Rocketship schools in San Jose, and observed how many vehicles were queued there. We stood there for a whole hour. We've gone to multiple sites and made this same observation and looked at the maximum number of cars, how long that queue got at maximum, and the number of students there were in those schools and how big the loading area was. And then we, from that, calibrated it, because this Rocketship school is smaller than the San Jose schools, expected to be fewer vehicles because of that. We did not factor for the fact that this school would have staggered arrivals. Other schools, all the students start at the same time, so our analysis was conservative, but even based on that, we concluded that the queuing space on site would be sufficient.
Okay, well, I guess I'll just leave it at that. I think then maybe my next couple of questions are probably for staff. We also heard testimony that the Stanford Phase 2 project was not included in this, also the proposed Sobrato project, and I'm just wondering if I could understand whether or how those two projects have been considered in sort of looking at the overall impact to the area.
I think Jessica's going to come up in one second.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Jessica Manzi, the Senior Transportation Coordinator for Redwood City. So this project, the analysis for this project started back in 2014. And at that time, there was no application for a project on the Sobrato site or Broadway Plaza site. And so at that point, it wasn't included. And to this day, we don't have a defined project that would have been included in the cumulative analysis. That said, the assumptions that were used for developing the cumulative analysis were based on an assumed percentage growth in traffic. So it wasn't including, the myriad of projects that might be coming online in the future that hadn't been proposed or approved yet, but actually based on simply increasing the traffic volumes by 1%. And the intent there was to capture all the universe of projects that we didn't know about, whether it be a Stanford, the full build-out of Stanford, or something like a Sobrato project.
Thanks, Jessica. So one of my other questions is, this might still be a question for you, I don't know. So one of my other questions is, in our, I can't remember which document it was, but there was some indication that people would be parking at Costco and walking their kids from Costco.
Yeah, I think in early discussions, there might have been a proposal of using offsite locations to drop off kids and then have like walking school buses going to the school. At this time, I haven't heard of any specific proposals for using Costco as such a site.
Okay. It was in one of the letters from Rocketship, I think, to the city, and that there was within that letter, it was proposed to use the Costco parking lot as well as the parking lot in the park behind Hoover. I mean, I'm not going to pull up the letter, but it was in something.
That's not part of our current intention.
Okay. I think that's all of my questions for the moment, so I'll let somebody else ask questions.
Okay. If you have other questions.
I'll let you know.
Okay. What I'm going to do is go back and forth. So I'm going to go to Councilwoman Borgens, then Councilwoman Howard, then Councilwoman Aguirre. So just so you know what order I'm going in.
I have a question regarding the shared facilities that are currently, we've heard several times today from speakers alluding to shared bathroom facilities, no cafeteria. So first, I'd like to have staff, if they could tell me, do the kids have a bathroom of their own? Or, yeah, it would be more of a school district.
Yeah, so we want to have the answer to that offhand, but I think that we defer
Well,
to...
I did some research,
Yeah.
and I was told, and please don't all get up and yell at me, okay? Remember the rules, okay? That they have a bathroom that's assigned for them, and then the option to use other facilities at the school. So it concerned me when I heard that they don't have a bathroom and have to wait 2 hours to use a facility. That concerned me on there. But having said that, I also did some research and was told they do have a facility. So I'd like to get some clarification at some point, that we have that. And the cafeteria being the same thing. And I realize it's a district issue because the schools are managed by our school district. But because we are sitting here making a decision on a land use for a proposal, I would like to know, what our partners are doing for that.
Can I just make one comment on that, since I know a little about school facilities? I mean, the reality is that the school district has to provide facilities to any charter that it approves under a Prop 39 guarantee. They have to provide adequate facilities, whether it's their favorite facility or it's a perfect facility. Certainly, you could argue that question one way or the other, but they do have to provide adequate facilities, and there are specific requirements around what kids can have, whether kids have access to a bathroom, not necessarily a cafeteria, but a bathroom, for example.
Thank you, Councilmember Mazur. That's where I was going. I appreciate your knowledge on that coming from the school board. I appreciate that. I'm going to forego any of my comments so far because Councilmember Mazur asked most of mine, so I'll have more later.
Okay. We're continuing with questions. Councilwoman Howard.
Thank you, Mayor Siebert. Yes, some of the questions have been asked, so I think this is great that we're just adding to it to get more informed about this project. I'd like to ask Rocketship, what is the current enrollment at your school?
At this time, I'd like to invite our principal, Lynn, up to the podium so she can answer some specific things about our school culture.
Hi, good evening. Our current enrollment is right around 295.
And at present, you're at the Kennedy campus. How do most of the students get to the school?
We currently have about 70 or so students who take our transportation shuttles. We have 4 routes that go back and, we have 4 shuttles for a total of 8 routes that go back and forth, morning and evening. And then we have the rest of our families are all drivers because we are very far from where our families live.
Okay, well, I think I heard it before. 80% of the students, of the 295 students, you're saying live within 1.5 miles of the current proposed site on charter.
That is correct.
Okay, so you have over 200 children being driven to the Kennedy School.
Yes, including siblings who might share vehicles.
Okay, I just know that a mile and a half for a young child that's a distance. Somebody said that's nothing, it's right in the neighborhood. It's not. I mean, I grew up and had to walk 2 blocks to school, and I was lucky, but not a mile and a half. And in today's day, you'd have to have someone go with you. So I don't see, honestly, I'm struggling with how you would expect over 200 students to not take cars and share vehicles to get to school, because a mile and a half for a young child is a long walk. So would you like to respond to that?
Sure, if I may. The mile and a half is merely to illustrate that the families are in close proximity to the 860 charter site. We've done other calculations with the radius, and I believe the stat is within 3/4 of a mile, about 40% of the families, and that's more of a realistic walking distance. But the mile and a half is not we don't believe that all those families in that radius are going to walk. That's I agree with you that that's too far to expect an elementary school kid to walk.
Okay, thank you. I also, one of the speakers who is a planner said something very interesting. A lot of people said beautiful things tonight. It's been a really good meeting. He said the purpose of a general plan and creating zoning categories and areas is to create a pattern of land use that is compatible in the area that you design. And it struck me because several of us on the dais worked on updating our general plan and identifying areas that we felt we could protect and be compatible for land use. And one of them that was really, truly important to us was the industrial area. And the reason I mention that is because industrial and light industrial has slowly been pushed out of some communities because of the need for housing and for office space, because office space pays better than industrial space. And so we have slowly seen it being eaten away. And so that's why we designed areas to try to protect the biotechs and the incubator companies and the skills workers, auto mechanic, welding, your garage doors, all the kind of skills that we would like to see flourish in our community, because balance is very important to us. So I was wondering if you, not Rocketship, I know that you would like to be in this area, but I'd like to ask some member of our staff that's what I'm wrestling with here, because I know how hard I worked on trying to create areas that would protect certain businesses so we wouldn't lose them in our community, and how can we, and how easily it could be to upset a balance by allowing something in that could suddenly turn it around and make it something that maybe was not what we intended.
So
sorry, Aaron.
No, that's okay. I mean, that's really the tough policy call that you have before you tonight. The general plan itself has hundreds of policies, and there's always going to be policies that are at tension with one another. And there is one policy of compatibility. There's another slew of policies about the need to locate schools within Redwood City, and that it's always difficult to locate school sites, whether in a residential area or an industrial area. I really think what's before you tonight is, on balance, looking at all those issues and deciding which one has most weight. So I do think there is weight to the fact that you do have to look at compatibility issues and the long-term impacts to uses that aren't light industrial on light industrial districts. At the same time, you also have to look at the fact that it is difficult to locate a school in Silicon Valley when land prices are so high. So those are kind of the two big factors that are in front of you tonight.
And the challenge is for us to figure out how to do that. But yeah, but I was going to say that we do have in our general plan BE 2.1, the policy to create complete neighborhoods by integrating schools into each neighborhood. And I thought, that's something that at some point I think we need to have a conversation about, because do schools fit into every neighborhood? And this industrial use considers themselves a neighborhood. They banded together. They have an association. I'm sure they meet regularly, and they consider themselves a community, even though it is an industrial community. And so I'd like to have that conversation at some point about, are we expecting too much to be able to do this in every neighborhood, or do we have to use some discretion at times? Like tonight we're having this discussion. So, but because it's in our general plan, I thought, wow, I think it's something that maybe at some point we should analyze it a little more closely and see if this is appropriate in all cases. But thank you, Aaron. Sorry to put you on the spot.
So, your questions?
I'm done.
Okay. Councilwoman Aguirre?
Can you tell me, and this as far as carpools for Rocketship, what is kind of your plan? You said you were going to do some carpools, some shuttling. Do you have locations? What does that look like? And how big are the buses or shuttles?
Sure, I can attempt to answer that. The carpooling program, we have about $37,000 dedicated annually to gas gift cards for the parents who participate in the carpooling program. We're hoping to have up to 75 carpool groups, and those will be encouraged and coordinated by the school, who knows which families live closest together. With the shuttling program, we haven't figured out the exact routes yet, but as Principal Lynn mentioned, we will run double routes for each shuttle in the morning and in the afternoon. Those cars will be kept, the shuttles will be kept at the Redwood City office we have in Redwood Shores, except for one of the vans will be parked on site during the day, and then they'll be driven home by the staff at night, by the support staff who drive them.
Do you have success with that at your other sites with carpooling and shuttles?
Redwood City is the only campus that, we at Concord, I guess we have shuttles as well, but it's rare that we run shuttles, but we've been running them successfully at the Redwood City Prep
And
campus.
the reason is because of the lack of smaller space, or why are you starting this program here?
We started the program here because the Kennedy Middle School is very far from the family, so we wanted to give families who don't have the time in their day to drive across town a transportation option.
When you talk about Kennedy being far away from families, what families do you recruit? And if you go to a location, do you recruit from that location, and why not from the Kennedy location? Why are they coming from so far away to Kennedy? I know it's because it's a middle school and you're working with younger children, but if you brought it to this location, would you be recruiting only from this location? And I know that a charter school doesn't have to have those kinds of limits.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about recruitment. As you know, our mission is to close the achievement gap in our lifetime. Therefore, we know that the most underserved communities of Redwood City tend to be in the North Fair Oaks area. In addition, the families that organized to bring this school to Redwood City are from the North Fair Oaks community. So that was our commitment, was to continue that need and that demand that was built. So currently, we have a pop-up office at the North Fair Oaks Community Center every Wednesday, and we routinely engage in community outreach efforts there with North Fair Oaks Community Center being the hub. In addition, that's also one of the locations where parents will come and do carpools to get to the current site, and we've also surveyed our parents and asked them around accessibility, and that tends to be the center of where our families live. So most of the recruitment that we do centers around the North Fair Oaks Community Center and the surrounding community.
And thank you. Erin, this might be for you. You know, our streets around that area, I don't know if you remember, but we kind of built our city on a kind of buggy and cart kind of area. And now we have the big trucks, and we haven't been able to accommodate some of those streets. I know that Middlefield, for example, where Costco is, was a 2-lane road, and they actually took away sidewalks in order to make it 4 or 3 lanes as it's configured. So those streets weren't built for the big car industry that we've come to know. And that concerns me about the traffic in just that area. And I'm sure that area has grown into residential, school, industrial, because that's just the way cities grow. And there's a wealth in that balance, I think. And that's just one of my comments. It's not really a question. But as far as the hazardous material, I mean, I don't know who could answer this question, but it's been mentioned over and over about hazardous material. How different is that in this area versus Summit and Hoover and that whole area, which is the same kind of neighborhood? I mean, they were talking about the gases giving headaches and all of that stuff.
We have our environmental consultant here who ran ambient air tests on the site, if that's all staff would like to.
Yeah, I think the person who has the most expertise in the toxic substance that was found on site. Yeah.
My name is Jem Adebeck. I'm with Baseline Environmental Consulting. We did the hazards analysis for the initial study. So I'm familiar with the hazardous materials situation on this site. I'm not very familiar with the other area that you were discussing, but if there's a specific question about the site itself.
Maybe it's on the behalf of the appellant that had mentioned, the hazards. And I don't know if we as a city have a study or know how different. I mean, the argument could be that it's hazardous wherever there is any type of gas station or any other type of business, and the parameter, and that's in our light industrial areas where we have dotted a lot of schools and now medical clinics and so on. I remember opening up the Ampex box after 50 or 60 years when I was mayor, and the fumes that came out of that, just to know what's underneath, were amazing. So we're surrounded by all of this. It's not like I don't think it goes in just one specific area. So I think
it is, industrial areas, it's common to have contamination in the ground and soil and groundwater.
So it's not very different as it's going to be in any of the other schools, is my assumption, just from what I've heard. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Bain.
Thank you. A couple of questions for the applicant and then for our staff. The shuttle program, have you considered expanding it to the point where it's an all shuttle program and all students are dropped off site and brought to the site?
We've considered, we have considered busing and all shuttles. We run into financial constraints and the operating costs of those shuttles when we get past the amount that we're proposing, and we're sort of pushing the limits of our affordability analysis now, but we felt like it was important to try to meet the business community here halfway and go above and beyond for our traffic mitigation efforts.
Okay. And have you considered changing the entrance and exit from charter to bay? I think I know the answer to that, but can you discuss what that would involve and what you've looked at there?
Perhaps Michelle would like to comment too, but the reason for the charter entry and bay exit was for right in, right out turning, which is the fastest traffic facilitation as I understand it. Additional comments?
Rocketship's looked at quite a few different iterations for their on-site circulation, which I have evaluated a number of them, and one of the biggest design considerations was just trying to maximize the amount of storage space for vehicles on site to ensure that the queue doesn't back out onto the public street system. So having an in from charter and an out onto bay would maximize that. It could be reversed, but having vehicles come in and out on the same street would not provide that same storage space on site.
Understood. Thank you. Have you considered further reducing the size of the school?
Similarly, we hit financial constraints. If we lower the student population too much, we can't cover the fixed costs of the school improvements.
Okay, thank you. I think the next couple questions are for our staff. So if the council chooses to uphold the appeal and deny the project tonight, what options would be left for the applicant? Could they make modifications to the project and come back within a certain amount of time? Or would the project then be considered over and they would have to start from scratch?
The city attorney could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe if you deny it outright, they would have to resubmit their application if they wanted to try to do it again on the same site. I don't know if there's a length of time that they have to wait, but I think they would be free just to resubmit an application. The other option would be obviously that the council either continue it or with some direction that they come back with some type of modifications. But if you denied it outright, I believe that they'd resubmit entirely, and you'd have to go through the CEQA process again.
Okay. And I think that if an applicant resubmits, then would they necessarily have to resubmit or submit a different project, or could they resubmit the exact same project?
I think they would know the conclusion if they resubmitted the same project. I mean, someone's free to do what they want to do, and if they want to submit the same project, I mean, obviously, if we had already received council direction, we would tell them what the council direction was and what the staff recommendation would be.
Thank you. I think I'd like to ask a question of the appellant. Are there any modifications that Rocketship could make to this project that would make it acceptable to you and your colleagues? From the podium, please. And I understand that you may only be speaking for yourself, and I don't expect everybody involved with the business organization or the neighborhood to express that, but I'm just asking if you would be open to modifications to the project. If so, what would they be?
I can speak for our association. Okay, I'm the president of it. So we have looked at everything about what goes on with the school. We have hired a planner. We had our own traffic engineer come out to see if there's any physical way that this can happen. The way they've proposed this, they have a parking apparatus that requires somebody to maintain it and be there and operate it for them. Not every person there can operate a car lift. 10 of their parking spots are lifted into the air. Who's gonna operate that? All right, they can't make the parking as it is now. The parking lot that's on the west side of the building, which has an easement in it, they can't use that as parking. So their parking counts aren't there. We've looked at this. We've tried talking to them. They only talk at us. They've never talked with us on any meeting we've ever had. So trying to work with them has been almost impossible. So we've looked at it in every way we could on our own, because we are a small business community. We have seriously undersized roads. That area was developed as Dumbarton Acres in 1927. The roads, if you take I have a photo shot of it, in 1927, an aerial view of that area. Only thing is there, basically, are about 12 buildings, small ones, and the roads. The roads haven't changed. They're still the same size from 1927. So if you look at this, the whole area has been developed throughout the years, brought up to almost 222 small commercial buildings. And, you know, it's the last place where you're going to have them. It just won't work. Okay, all right? And it's not a safe place. When we talk about gas and acetylene and all the other things that are dangerous, I store fertilizers on my property. I have oxygen acetylene tanks. I have propane tanks. I have a construction company there.
So, Mr. Tanner, if I could put a finer point on this. So has your group made a counter proposal to Rocketship, or are you just saying that you think the site is completely...
We couldn't. They would only talk at us, not with us.
Are you saying that you see this site as completely unacceptable?
Completely unacceptable as a school.
So it sounds like you're not open to a compromise on this either.
Sorry, hold on. Okay. Yeah, we've actually made comments to them about we would help them try to find other locations where they could go to. You have developments that are going to be happening here in Redwood City. You have the J. Paul, you have Sobrato. Those are huge projects. Why couldn't they, during this process of them trying to make a development and bring that to your community, you should make them understand that maybe they could squeeze in this school for these kids in a safer area. There's other places that can happen. There's land swaps that can happen. There's a lot of things, but they're set on the school. They've told us this is it. This is our school. This is where we're going. Okay. And their concentration has been on that the entire time, not looking at any other sites.
Okay, those are all the questions I have for now. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Bain, if I may answer or just follow up
Yeah.
on what Mr. Ackman mentioned. As he mentioned, if this were to be denied, if the project were to be denied tonight, then they would have to reapply, and the zoning ordinance does provide for a 1-year wait for a reapplication on a similar project on the same site.
Okay, are there other questions? Councilwoman Borgens?
Thank you. And I think I'll ask Rocketship representation. So the school is being built by whom? Launchpad Development, okay. And maintained by?
Launchpad Development.
So all of the facilities costs are not coming from our school district funds, but Launchpad Development?
Correct. It would be privately financed.
So
So
then-
in the sense that there's not a bond allocation from Redwood City School District, we receive state funding like the Redwood City School District does, but the construction project will not use any money from Redwood City School District.
And the maintenance of it
Correct. It will also be apart from Redwood City School District.
forever?
Correct.
Okay. And the grounds and everything we're talking about? That would be the maintenance of the facility, the grounds.
You're talking about the 860 charter site?
I'm talking about the Rocketship School site, 860 Charter.
Right.
Yes.
The operations of that campus would be run by Rocketship, though we are authorized by the Redwood City School District. So we would be in charge of the maintenance operations.
But who pays for that is what I'm asking. Where do those funds come from? Do you bill the school district?
No.
So who does the maintenance on the facility? Is it you have your own maintenance crew?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Other question? Councilwoman Mazur?
Yeah, I do have one other question, but just a quick note on that question about funds. I mean, the funding that charter schools get is per student funding, and from that money, they do have to pay all of their expenses. So, true that the district itself is not maintaining their facilities, but the money that is following the kids is going to maintain their facilities as well as pay all their bills, et cetera. So, so my other question actually was on the queuing. And we saw a few pictures, and I think not for Rocketship, but maybe, I'm not sure. So we'll see. So we saw a bunch of pictures of where cars are backed up to drop kids off to Summit. I know that the city has done a lot of work around Hoover to reduce queuing and to make it easier for families to drop their kids off. I work really close by there, so I either ride my bike or drive by there most days. So I'm pretty familiar with the traffic backups right all around there, including where if you reversed the entrance, it would be even worse because you've got stop signs right there. So anyway, that's another thing. So my question is how is the queuing from the other schools factored into the total traffic impact on the street and the neighborhood?
So the traffic analysis is based on existing counts that we did. At the time, there was not a specific proposal as far as a start time for Rocketship schools, and the idea of a staggered start time was not brought forward and when the project was initially proposed. That came about later. So our analysis is based on a conservative assumption, based on trip rates from other Rocketship schools that have all the students starting at the same time. So keep in mind this is conservative, but the traffic analysis is based on counts. So we do count over a 2-hour period, and we take the peak 60 minutes within that 1-hour period. So whenever that peak happens to occur, which is of course going to be affected by the neighboring schools. Mm-hmm. It presumably would include the times when the other schools are starting. Mm-hmm. We're assuming that Rocketship trips are added during that time period. Now, since then, Rocketship has said that they're going to stagger their start times, which would allow them to reduce the number of students coming at one time, and they could adjust their start times so that it doesn't coincide with the other schools. But our traffic analysis is worst case, assuming that their trips are all coming for a single start time and it's added to the peak that's already there.
Okay. Well, I'll have to say the Rocketship schools that I visited in San Jose were on much bigger streets and not on a small 2-lane street like Charter. But that aside, I guess, and then I think my last question is probably for you, Aaron. So we've heard that schools are compatible in some way in the general plan with light industrial or industrial restricted use. And I'm wondering, and I know you described that there's a variety of goals within a general plan, and at any one time you may be meeting some or another of those goals, and probably not all of them on any given project. But that being said, was it an actual active decision to say that schools were compatible with light industrial and industrial restricted, or is it just sort of a general overall goal of the general plan that we've heard that we value education and we value schools, and so we want to make sure that schools can be built in a relatively easily?
It's the latter. So there's a general overall goal to incorporate schools within various and all zoning or all general plan designation areas. There's not a specific general plan policy that says you must locate schools within industrial zones.
Oh yeah, no, I get
Yeah.
that there's nothing
Yeah.
that says you must. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like,
Or
for
that you
example,
should
on
be
other
encouraged to.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I guess the reason I asked that question because is on other appeals that we've heard, other types of discussions we've had around development, there have been prohibited uses within a particular zoning area where we would have to actively modify the zoning to allow a particular type of building or business to operate in there. And I'm just trying to understand the thinking behind the schools being allowed in here.
Sure.
In
So
this
there's-
type of
So there's
zoning.
broader policies within the general plan. Then if you drill down one into our zoning code, school is considered a public quasi-use, and public quasi-uses are allowed within structures. Now, what's unique about this is the split between us and the county.
Yeah.
So it's within a structure within the city, therefore not triggering our use permit requirement for the school use itself, and it's allowed. And then through the county process is where they have to go through the additional process for the outside use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. And then, so public schools and private schools are considered a public quasi-public use? Sorry,
Yes,
I'm not
it's-
remember the order
yeah, it's
that you
considered,
said.
It's considered a
Any school.
Yeah, any school. is school.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, are there any additional questions, clarifying questions? All right, I have a few, believe it or not. So I have a couple, I'm going to divide mine into two categories. One is a little bit about CEQA, and one's a little bit about the project itself. So I'm going to ask for the CEQA. Who's here representing the company who, thank you.
Hi, Teresa Wallace with LSA, the environmental consultant that prepared the initial study and mitigated negative declaration.
Thank you. How, in the initial study, when you did an initial study, did it uncover, it didn't uncover anything that wasn't mitigatable?
Correct.
And so the reason why it wasn't conducted as further CEQA study like an EIR, the initial study was done like you might have been preparing to do an EIR, but when it didn't determine there were a significant level of impacts, then it didn't go to an EIR. Is that correct?
That is
But
absolutely
the beginning
right.
of that is the same process.
Yeah, so typically you would prepare an EIR after you've done preliminary analysis like an initial study that has identified some sort of impacts that might not
Okay.
be able to be mitigated.
And so from my planning commission days, I have two questions. One, was this completed in compliance with all the CEQA guidelines?
Yes, it was.
And was this an independent analysis of the issues?
Yes.
Okay, so Rocketship, even though they pay the city to pay you, didn't pick your company?
Correct. We went through an RFP process. The
Thank
city
you.
selected us as the lead agency.
So it's truly independent analysis. You didn't take information from their experts?
That's true.
Okay, great. A couple other questions. In the CEQA process, this is on traffic. I keep hearing that, I apologize, I think this will be for the traffic engineer, this question. I believe what you just said it in your last statement to a question that was asked, but the traffic study was conducted using general count-based traffic study. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Was any study done on the qualitative analysis of the traffic? It's not necessarily required, but was it done?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
So was the traffic study done only based on counts?
No, issues like pedestrian and bicycles aren't based on counts per se because it's
I
not.
understand that, but I'm
generally
talking about the
possible.
traffic, the vehicle traffic was based on counts.
It was based on counts.
Okay, thank you. It's fine. I'm just curious.
Oh, right.
And-
I should just say, I mean, we've also done observations.
I understand
out
that.
there.
Right. But the count, the LOSs that you provided in the traffic report and so forth were based on counts. You went out and made you either observed counts or you actually counted cars using counters.
We counted cars or had staff count cars out there, and then we went out into the field and did observations to
Right.
confirm the accuracy of the level service
Of the counts,
analysis.
of the levels of service. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I think that's good for you. So if we were to do, for our city manager, actually, yes, this is from getting through my questions here. If we were to allow a project like this, who enforces parking and traffic in those areas?
So it's ultimately the police department. However, they, as you know, are spread across the entire city. So the regularity with which those kinds of issues can be addressed varies depending on other needs within the city.
And is there ever instances where enforcement is conducted at the expense of private businesses or schools or other things? Or does it essentially fall on the expense of the city's budget to do that enforcement?
It's entirely a city expense.
Okay, great. A couple questions about compatibility. So who wants to answer? Aaron, do you want to? Okay. How is it determined? What's the process? And there may not be, but first of all, let me back up. And this is going to be a little bit of a statement, but a question. It's always been my understanding, and the way I've always described the general plan and the zoning ordinance, I think people think they are kind of two different versions of the same thing. Isn't it true that really the general plan is a series of ideas that we have about the city, and really the zoning ordinance is the implementation of those ideas?
I think that's a good way to describe it, yes.
And so isn't it true that the zoning ordinance tends to be more the nuts and bolts about how things get done, just not goals and ideas that we have for the city? Okay. So I think that's some of the confusion about, schools and neighborhoods. I mean, this is a neighborhood, but one, it has schools. So it's not that we put every school that wants to be in a neighborhood. But also that we place them, whenever we do that, there's also the implementation tool. The general plan says a lot of things that isn't implemented because it's not contained in the zoning ordinance. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about compatibility. Was there any official study done, or was it simply anecdotal about how we determine that a school is compatible with the zoning ordinance of light industrial or industrial restricted? It's actually what it is.
We did not do a detailed land use compatibility analysis for this one. I think it was higher level. What are the policies within our plan, and is it allowed within our zoning code itself?
So the types of businesses that are allowed without any approval in the zoning ordinance, in industrial restricted, the IR zoning, businesses that fall into those categories essentially have a right to be in that zone. Is that correct?
They have a right pending environmental review.
Sure. Yeah. But I mean, if there's an existing space, they can move in. In other words, well, let me read some of the things. Laboratories, other establishments used for research, manufacturing, assembly, laundries, cleaning, dyeing establishments, automobile, truck, trailer, boat, plane, heavy equipment establishments. That comes right out of the zoning ordinance. And those things are allowed in industrial restricted essentially by right.
Correct.
I mean, maybe not, they can't build a building as big as they want, but they can,
correct.
They can be there and operate there. Okay. And so if a use that is allowed only by use permit moves into an area, that takes into consideration how compatible it is with what is currently there in the industrial restricted. Is that correct?
Yes. So
okay. It doesn't take any allowance for the fact that, in 10 years next door, a business could move in that is doing laundry and cleaning or dyeing establishment. It doesn't know that. It can't know that now. So it doesn't take that future into consideration.
Correct. You do the analysis
So-
at this point in time.
So something like a school or a daycare or something could be compatible one time, and then because a business moves in that is allowed under industrial restricted, could fall out of compatibility.
Correct.
Okay. So I think, well, now I only got 4 pieces of paper. There we go. Okay, I think those are actually all my questions. Thank you for that. I would like to see where the council, how you want to do this, where the council wants to go with comments and kind of see where we're at. I do want to clarify, actually, I'm going to ask this in the form of a question to the city attorney. Isn't it true that we essentially have 2 items before us? One is essentially an appeal on a CEQA basis. I see this, that it's an appeal regarding the mitigated negative declaration for the project, and then the second appeal was on the conditional use permit and architectural permit. So those are 2 different decisions before the council?
That is correct. You have 2 decisions that are on appeal.
So I'd actually like to take them separate. They are 2 separate votes. I'd like to take them separately in terms of our comments, if we can. You can make your comments at the same time, but if you can, keep them separate into the 2 different items that will be before us tonight. What's that?
I have a clarifying
Yeah.
question on that you just asked.
Sure.
But my understanding of this hearing tonight is you told us, and maybe you can explain this so that other people know what it is, but it's a de novo hearing, which means the entire project is up for review, and we could make a decision that is not specifically on the 2 appeals, but we could approve or deny the project based on the entirety of the project. Is that correct?
That is correct. So you do have, the reason you have this item for your consideration is because of the appeal on the 2 decisions by the Planning Commission. But based on your code, you do have de novo review, which means that you look at this project as a project anew. So you will consider what, within your discretion, findings you can make and what evidence you feel is supported.
Right. So let me explain where I'm going with this, because I've seen this numerous times in my years on the Planning Commission. You can, because the 2 are separate, you could conceivably agree with the deny the appeal of the CEQA document and uphold the appeal of the project. You could also deny them both, or you could uphold them both. So there are kind of a series of things that could be done in there. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Because the standard for upholding or denying the appeal for CEQA is different than the standard. I mean, we could do anything, as again, it is de novo, but the standard is different on the CEQA item. Is that correct?
What you are looking at with regard to the CEQA decision is whether there is an adequate document before you.
Okay.
And then you have the separate land use decision, which is, can I make the findings to approve the project that is before you?
That's what I was getting at. So with that, if you have comments in general, great. I happen to have comments on both items separately, so I was just explaining that. That's the way we've done in the past. So who would like to jump in with that?
So
Councilwoman Aguirre?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, first of all, I want to hear this late. I mean, and what you're learning and what you're observing, and you've been great. You really followed the mayor's rules, and so thank you for being such great students in our big classroom today. And you know, my first thought is all of our children deserve a better school, no matter what it looks like or where it is, and that's the number one thing I think we're struggling with. I would love to have seen. Then, sorry. then I think I'd like to give, the only reason we're here, because there has, it's come to us because you haven't been able to work something out. And so I'd like to, for me, what I'd like to see is to have this item continued and to bring other options to the floor that we've heard both sides. Everything has two sides, and I think that's what we've heard today. And to the families and to the children that have been told that we can give you a new school, we're not going to give you the school. We're here to decide. You know, it's going to be the school district. It's going to be, you know, so I know that you think that we can give you a school and a new bathroom and cafeteria, but it's not on the city council. And it is with the work that you're working very hard to do, and that we want you to have the greatest school available. And I don't know where that is right now because we haven't been able to work this out.
Councilman.
Okay, it's open. So I want to reiterate what Councilmember Gary just said. This has been amazing to watch all the kids come before us today. But I will also say that Rocketship is doing amazing. So wherever you land, you're doing amazing because you can just see it from the children. So, you know, kudos to the kids and the teachers and the parents. It's not necessarily what your house looks like. It's what you learn inside of that house. And that's what's going on right now. So having said that, I have some land use issues that I need to deal with here. And I don't agree with the CEQA findings. I can't make those findings. I also live in that neighborhood. I experience the backup in traffic. That neighborhood and that surrounding neighborhood has several schools. We have Taft, we have Fair Oaks, we have Hoover, we have Summit. We are a neighborhood of schools. So it's not that this neighborhood doesn't have a school. So I don't see where we need to add a school. I am a huge supporter and have been on this council for supporting our light industrial. And I will continue to do that. I know what businesses are out there. I have walked it several times. I have not participated and spoken with any of the business owners. I will go on record with that. But I have sat there from 7 in the morning till 10 and watched what goes on there. And yes, you deserve a school, but you deserve safety. And I would not want my child going to a school on that street. You deserve better. And where you are learning. You are obviously learning well. But that site is not the site for a school, not for children of your age. The parking lot that they're using for queuing is going to be your playground. You deserve better than that. You deserve a playground like all the other schools have. So I'm not comfortable with that. I don't think that is a safe place. I do believe that the businesses that are there have done their due diligence. They have hired consultants, and they've been there a long time. We as a council, I feel, and as a community, have to support all of our entities, our neighborhoods, our communities, our commercial, all of our businesses. This is our light industrial area, and that's what it should stay. I do not believe that the permit application for a permit use for this area, I don't think it meets any of the findings, and I can read some of them to you. The proposed use is compatible with surrounding uses? No. It has to meet these findings in order to be approved. The use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, general welfare, or the environment? No. Oops. It's flashing. The site is served by adequate public facilities, including utilities and parking? No, it is not. And in order for that queuing to take place, there could possibly be sites lost. I don't believe the parking on site is adequate. I do believe that the parents would soon see that. The neighborhood would see it even more. There'll be a huge conflict. Everybody wants to play nice. It's not going to happen. At the end of the day, there's going to be a struggle between our businesses, our parents, our children, our teachers, our staff. I already see it at the schools that we have. Many times we go out to the schools and deal with parents and neighbors and staff to work together. I can't make those findings. If I look at the general plan and I look at the recommendations in the staff report, I can't make the findings that it meets with consistency with the general plan. And I have to make those findings to approve this and to deny an appeal. I do believe that the appeal is consistent with its disagreement with the CEQA document. I think it needed further study for that particular area. I do believe that there are choices, and I think Rocketship organization, not the parents, not the students, but the organization that you're counting on, and that is doing a great job bringing you all together. They really are. But I do believe that they chose this site based on its price, not on its safety for its students. It was a business decision. It was not an emotional decision. So many of the children came up here today emotional, the parents, because you want a school. But I do believe that Rocketship should have done a broader search. I think there are opportunity sites out there that they couldn't afford. I understand that. But there may have been opportunities for them to partner with someplace else. And they settled on this site because it was the cheapest. And you deserve better. Yes, you do. And when I see a sign up that says, immigrants deserve a good school, all children in our community deserve a good school. All children. You are my children. You are my community. You can have a conversation with me later, sir. Later. So I cannot make the findings to move this project forward. I do not want to move it to another date. I want this settled today. I think these parents have waited long enough. I think these children have. And at this point, I am moving towards upholding the appeal and denying the project.
Okay, Councilwoman Mazer and then Councilwoman Howard. Or it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it works now.
Yeah, they've got them working
Yeah,
again.
thank you.
Thank you. By the way, our little thing with the microphones, it's still new, so
Yeah,
bear
thank
with
you
us a little
to
bit.
the staff for getting us back up online. Appreciate it. So I'm going to try and be pretty brief because it is late, and I will just echo my thanks again to you guys for coming to talk to us. I really appreciate it. I know it's hard to come and stand in front of a large group of people, and you did a good job. And I appreciate how you feel about your school, and I appreciate that you also want a school that's separate from Kennedy. My kids went to Kennedy, so I actually think it's a pretty nice site, but that's a separate issue. What I was going to say is the issue that is before us tonight is not about whether or not kids deserve a school. That's not the issue. In 2014, Rocketship leased that site, and they talked to city staff before the site was leased and understood that it was a complicated site, as we heard tonight, and that it was a difficult place to be. And so this has been a long process that probably should have taken into account more of what the city staff had around guidance for location. And I do agree, there are schools in that neighborhood. There are multiple schools, actually 4 we were counting, because KIPP is also on Hoover's campus, as I believe Rocketship was last year. From my perspective, that neighborhood is not a compatible use with the school. I will agree with Councilmember Borgens on all of the various components that you addressed. We actually have an alternate resolution that talks about some of the various pieces that you read. I don't think it's compatible with that neighborhood, and I'm sorry that that's the case, because I know it would be better to move. Your program specifically needs its own site. When I went to visit it, it needs a school that's built to implement Rocketship's program. But I don't think that site is. I don't think that location is the right location for building that school. So,
Councilwoman Howard.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to echo, this has been a really difficult evening for, I think, everyone here, because there's such high emotion and passion on both sides. So I would like to personally thank both sides who are here this evening, because your respectful behavior was so much appreciated. This has not been easy to discuss, and I'm sure it hasn't been easy for you to hear some of the things that have been said, especially when you feel so fervently about your position. And what I've been asked to do tonight is not judge the merits of Rocketship. I mean, I've been so impressed this evening. There's one teacher, I won't point her out, but there's one teacher who, she really has been remarkable handling her students, and your students have been remarkable tonight. And I said, boy, if I could have done that with my son, my God, I would have had a much easier time bringing him up. But I'm looking at you, though. But I really, really appreciate what you offer. But I have not been asked to study that, or the relationship you have with the school district, or how it works with the money transaction. That's not my job this evening. My job this evening has been to decide if a school belongs in this industrial area. If the site that's been chosen by Rocketship is appropriate for an elementary school in this narrow-streeted neighborhood that's already impacted with cars and businesses. We have 4 schools nearby, as we've said. And I have to say that I read the findings. I read all the letters that were sent to me. I tried to read every bit of information, watching the Planning Commission. And I have to honestly say, I'm not comfortable with the final findings. I just feel that we're underestimating the cumulative impact already, and then what is to come. So I'm truly uncomfortable. I feel that the school is not compatible with the surrounding businesses. The parking and double parking is very dangerous. It happens already. How you're going to see small children walking or bicycles going to school, I just don't know. I think the play space is very inadequate. I grew up in New York, and there were kids playing on concrete. That's fine, I suppose, if that's what you have, but I think these kids deserve better than that. And I'm just not comfortable that it's got dual use for young children. I don't think there's adequate parking, especially for the events that may happen in and around school activities. So I've been so challenged with this one, but I really feel that this is just not the right project for this particular site. And I sure hope that everyone will work together and see if there are other areas that may be a better choice for these young people so they can have the school that they're hoping for. I couldn't make the findings to deny the appeal, so I would be voting to uphold the appeal and deny the project tonight. And it's with sadness, but I think it's the right thing to do, because I think that it's just too much of a burden on that neighborhood and on those small streets.
Vice Mayor Bain. Thank you, Councilman Howard.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to disclose that I did meet with the folks at Innovate Public School a few weeks ago, probably about 3 weeks ago, after the appeal was filed, and I made it very clear that we could not discuss the appeal or the project, and so we did not discuss those things. We did talk about the passion that the parents have for the school. We talked about the process of how projects are considered, both at the Planning Commission and then at the City Council level. And I did make a couple of things clear during that discussion. One is, I feel very strongly that whenever there's a proposal for a project, the burden of proof is on the developer. I remember saying that very clearly. In this case, the burden of proof was that this site would be an appropriate use compatible with our general plan. And unfortunately, for many people in the room, I've come to the conclusion that it's not. I did listen to a lot of evidence. I asked a lot of questions to try to understand the situation, but ultimately this feels a little bit like a square peg trying to be shoved into a round hole. And the brute force approach is not the way to get a project approved. And I say that very deliberately because I do believe that the effort to get this project approved has been run much like a political campaign and not like a development proposal as we are used to seeing. I can think of a few very successful applications for developments where the developer, and in this case, the organization is a developer, has reached out to the community and has really worked to try to understand concerns and address concerns. In this case, it feels more like the developer has been trying to discourage disagreement and just sell its point of view. That's not the way to get a project approved in Redwood City. I'm not sure how it works in other communities, but it doesn't work very well here. We did approve the Stanford project, but Stanford spent a considerable amount of time going to the neighborhood associations, understanding the concerns, making adjustments to their projects. We did the same thing on 885 Woodside. That was a housing development where the neighborhood was adamantly opposed to that project, but the developer reached out to opponents and worked with them to understand their concerns and to make modifications to a project that would work. In this case, unfortunately, that looks like it didn't happen at all as far as I can tell. I know that the developer says there has been outreach to the community, but we have several people who said that they were not contacted either at their home or their business, and they live in the neighborhood. I've heard, and I know that my colleagues have as well, it's not just the businesses in the neighborhood, it's a lot of the residents there who feel the pain of trying to drive down Charter Street every single day. I am convinced that there is a more suitable location out there somewhere, and I heard at least 2 business owners say that they would work with Innovate Public Schools to help find a better location for the school. I don't believe, unfortunately, that we can find a compromise in this situation. So therefore, I don't support continuing the meeting because I don't believe that any modifications we could make to the project tonight would be very thoughtful, and I don't believe that they would result in making anybody happier. So I would suggest we uphold the appeal, go back to the drawing board, and that I hope that the appellants can work with the applicant and find another solution that results in a much better project.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I know for our staff and for my colleagues, but especially for the children. This is an opportunity, probably not the biggest issue you'll ever face in life, but certainly at your age, thank you for being here. You have all behaved much better than even some of the adults. So if you were, if you're looking for like snacks or something, the adults that brought you owe you snacks for how well you did. I will let the adults decide what that is. I'm not going to get myself in trouble with suggesting snacks. So I'm going to take a little bit, a slightly different tune on this. I actually believe that the CEQA requirements were met. I actually believe that CEQA that was studied correctly. It was done by the book. I believe the CEQA consultant did their job and analyzed it. And so I have a different view on the CEQA document. However, I've learned this in the years of doing CEQA work, and that is that CEQA isn't always, and quite frankly, was never meant to be. The first time you take a CEQA class, the first thing they tell you is CEQA is not everything. It is not the final answer. It is information that you use when looking at projects. Sometimes we approve statements of overriding consideration. Sometimes we need to look further than CEQA. Sometimes we need to look less than CEQA. Sometimes CEQA says, don't do it, and there are reasons that we do it, and sometimes CEQA says, these are the numeric answers, and we as policy decision makers make the decisions different than what CEQA requires. That's how we have, I don't know all the projects, but that's how we have a number of projects in Redwood City going back even to when Mr. Britschke was mayor, that sometimes we do that. CEQA has always been that tool since the early 70s. So let me talk about the project a little bit. The reason I talked about the traffic is I believe CEQA analyzed the traffic. However, traffic is not purely a numeric thing, and I understand that. It was done correctly. The traffic studies, I looked at them, and I think even back in the days of Ken McCoy on the Planning Commission would have been proud of the traffic studies. But the reality is that the quality and the type of traffic in this area is not conducive to school children. The trucks, the large trucks, they're not looking for that. Just the quality and the type of traffic in this area, in an industrial restricted area, in my opinion, is not conducive to school children. The second thing is the issue I brought up with compatibility. The IR zoning allows, without any approval or discretion from the city, some of the uses I talked about. And some of those, I have a real big concern about whether or not, is there an issue with public health, safety, or welfare of the students right now? Perhaps not, but can we guarantee that for the future? We can't. And that's where we don't put children in harm's way. Am I willing to risk it? I'm not. So the basis of my decision tonight to actually uphold the CEQA document, to deny the appeal on the CEQA document, but to uphold the appeal on the use permit is this. Number one, this is not about being for education or for children. I would put the record of myself and my colleagues up here against anyone in the room in terms of our support for children and education over the years. This is not about Rocketship being a great school or not. This is not about somebody getting what they want. I raised 3 children of my own, and sometimes they don't get everything they think they want because there's a higher and better watch over what is actually good for them. This project, this is tonight for me, is about whether this project is good for our community and whether it's the right project in the right place for the right reasons. I totally understand and support the work of our staff and our planning commission, but I learned when I first came on the city council, thank you specifically to some comments that former Mayor Barbara Pierce made to me, and that is the city council has a different discretion. We have a different job to do, and I commend the staff and the consultants and the planning commission for the work they do. But our job tonight is to look at it differently, and as I look at it, again, I will just repeat, I will uphold the appeal on the conditional use permit. I was asked not too long ago in an interview in an online article about what I do to go about making decisions. And one of the things that I think some people miss is outside of all the information that I read in emails and the studies and the staff reports and everything and all the experience I bring, we also bring our unique experiences and our personal experiences. And I want to tell you that my unique experience tonight comes from almost 20 years of managing facilities that have included schools, child care facilities, a preschool. I understand, in fact, served on the county-wide committee for safety in schools a couple of years ago. I understand the safety, security, and the general health of school children in a very, very firsthand way. The last place I worked for 4 years, actually worked on a project acquiring property and entitling property for a new campus. And I can tell you a site like this would have never been considered by that board of that school. We looked at sites in less industrial areas, in safer areas, and didn't feel they were compatible. So as I said, this simply isn't the right place for school children. Rocketship is more than welcome in Redwood City, and I want you to hear that at the appropriate site. And I would welcome Rocketship and continue to welcome them at the appropriate site. But I will be voting to uphold the appeal on the conditional use permit. So with that, I was keeping a little bit of track, and I believe we have a consensus to move. I would be looking for direction on how these motions will go, and our city attorney providing that.
So What we have for you in the staff report is two different resolutions denying the appeal and upholding the Planning Commission decisions. One is on CEQA, one is on the CUP, and then we had an alternative resolution for you that overturned the Planning Commission decisions on both the CEQA and the CUP. Now, depending on where the motion goes, you have two options. If there's an interest in upholding the Planning Commission's decision on CEQA and denying the project or denying the CUP, what we can do is either we can dance, and you'll have to be a little bit patient with me while I kind of create something.
I'm going to, with the mayor's discretion, I'm going to
Yes.
actually cut you off and make this easy on you.
Great.
You can thank me later. I understand that I am out on my own a little bit on the CEQA item. I'm happy that I said that. I still believe that about the CEQA document. But I believe the overriding issue for me is the conditional use permit. And so I am happy to entertain personally, since I'm the only one that mentioned that other side of CEQA, I am happy to entertain a motion that is before us right there and right here. So if somebody wants to make that, I'd be happy to entertain
Just
that.
for the record, if this is the motion that you'll be carrying, I do want to mention that we do have an additional Section 5 that we're recommending. It's on the screen right now, and it just very clearly states that the decisions of the Planning Commission as set forth in the resolutions 1707 and 1708 are hereby reversed. So that's added to the resolution that's in your agenda packet.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Do I have a motion on that?
Motion to motion to uphold an appeal and deny the request for a conditional use permit and architectural permit for the new charter elementary school.
And real quick, and the motion includes the new Section 5?
Correct.
Okay, and I heard a second. And does the
Second.
second include that section?
Yes.
It does, okay. Electronic vote, please.
Can council confirm that everyone has cast their vote?
Yeah, do I need to vote for
No,
Jeff?
no.
Okay. I don't know if I need to vote for Jeff if he's not here. I mean abstain for him.
The motion passes with 5 votes. Councilmember Aguirre dissents and Councilmember G is absent.
Okay, thank you. That concludes this item. We do have a few more business items, believe it or not. I will give you a couple of minutes if you could move out to the lobby, unless you want to stay in here. The adjournments, they're good, but I understand you may have other places to go.
I'm Pam.
If we could just move out, we've got business to do, and we do want to. Some of us want to go home. I got to speak for. Okay, council member report. We have no committee reports, but I actually believe. Okay, so we have a couple. So Councilwoman Borgens, I think, is going to give one. Vice Mayor Bain is going to give one, and Councilwoman Howard. Okay, just move right. There we go.
So first, okay. So I had the honor and the pleasure to attend the Peninsula Interfaith Action DACA Vigil last Tuesday. It was just a really good cross mix of our whole community held at 400 County Center. A lot of great speakers. Councilmember Aguirre was there that spoke. It was enlightening. It was uplifting, and it was really supportive. So it was really nice to see the community all come out for that, and the various faiths all together talking about support. So it was a nice representation for Redwood City.
Thank you. I'll give a brief update on our Bayfront Canal Committee. Councilmember Borgens, Councilmember G, and I met with staff to discuss an MOU with Atherton, Menlo Park, and the County of San Mateo, so we can all work together on cost sharing for watershed improvements that will provide some long-term relief particularly for the residents of Friendly Acres and the mobile home parks. So we are optimistic about this, that these other cities will get on board with this, that they'll agree to the MOU, and we'll hope to see that move forward in the next few months. We'll also be discussing at the communications meeting how we can report out to the community and provide some sort of a timeline on when we expect these improvements to take place. So we're making some progress. We are very conscious of the time that it's taken us to get to this point, as well as the continued flooding situation, and that any delay in getting this MOU could result in a further delay of the project. So as a committee, we are pushing very hard to move things forward as quickly as possible, and we will report at a future meeting.
Okay. Councilman Howard and then Councilwoman Mazur.
That's great news, Vice Mayor Bain. I just wanted to mention that this Saturday, September 16th, the Pride and Beautification Committee is hosting the Coastal Cleanup Day, and we'll be cleaning up Redwood City's waterways, streets, and neighborhoods, and having a wonderful time. Last time we did our cleanup, we had so many families. We had like 200 people, young people, families, groups, service organizations. We had a marvelous time. So please join us. We started Public Works. We'll feed you. We give you breakfast. We give you lunch. And all we ask in between is that you make Redwood City look more beautiful and bring back something unusual that you might find, because Recology gave me some gifts to give to those people who happen to find the unusual out there. My thanks to our sponsors, Shen Yuen Temple, Recology, the San Mateo Credit Union, and Starbucks. As always, they provide us with food and money so we can do this each year, and I think you'll have a wonderful time. It's this Saturday. Come at 8:15 for breakfast. We get out on the road by 9 o'clock, and we will have a shuttle if you want to leave your car there or if a group of you want to go to different sites. So I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Councilman Mazur.
Just really quick, Councilwoman Borgens and I were invited to speak at the Redwood City Women's Club last week, and had a really great conversation with the members, and Councilwoman Borgens had a great idea to actually share our general plan and what our budget looked like, and we had lots of interest in sort of just understanding how the city operates and what are the kinds of decisions that we have to make, and I think they found it to be quite enlightening.
Councilwoman Aguirre.
We had a wonderful Women's Equity Day on Women's Equity Day in Redwood City, and we attracted about 70 women at the Dragon Theater, which I thought was pretty amazing. There's just such a hunger now, and it's awesome to see it happening with women in our county. We also had a Peninsula Division reception and the League the last week, and I want to invite everyone to Fiestas Patrias this Saturday, and also Oktoberfest next weekend that are happening downtown.
Okay, City Manager, report.
No update this evening. Thank you.
City Attorney from closed session.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay, tonight we'll be adjourning in memory of two people in Redwood City. Vice Mayor Bain will be doing the first one in memory of Vince Truselli.
Thank you, Mayor.
There he is.
I'm glad we were able to find a picture of Vince. I know that many people in the community knew him. A great guy. Vincent Angelo Truselli was born January 27, 1925, was a proud San Francisco native, and passed away on August 27, 2017. Vince was a retired Redwood City police officer, past American Legion commander, son of Italian immigrants, and a child of the Depression. He was proud to have served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. He was married to Pauline from 1946 until her passing. Many of us knew her as Pina Truselli. They loved to travel and see the world. Vince moved to Redwood City in 1957 when he was Redwood City police officer until he retired in 1980. Vince was very committed to his community, serving in many different organizations, American Legion Post 105, Redwood City Senior Center, just to name two. He was also the recipient of numerous awards, including Citizen of the Year. He is survived by his two daughters, Debbie Cortez of Fremont, and Judy Eckley of Scotts Mills, Oregon, and their grandchildren he held so close to his heart, Alyssa, Taylor, Eckley, as well as Daniel and Emily Cortez. Per his request and respecting his wishes, there will be no services. However, there will be a celebration of life that some of his friends at the American Legion are putting on, and I'd like to just mention that will be Sunday, September 27th at 1 to 4. And please RSVP to Chris Cheshire, 650-703-1113, or ccheshire@yahoo.com. Please raise a glass to cheer his honor. You are loved, and you will be missed.
Thank you. Tonight, I think we will also being adjourned in memory of Sergeant Jesse Vasquez Contreras. I think it's interesting. Sergeant Vasquez Contreras and Vince died one day apart. And I think each of them probably, I'm guessing, didn't know each other, would have been extremely proud that they're sharing this moment together tonight, Vince having served in the military. Sergeant Jesse Vasquez Contreras, age 22, passed away on August 26, 2017, after a fatal accident in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Jesse is survived by his mother, Maria, his father, Heliodoro, his brothers and sister, Eduardo, Patricia, Tony, and Julio. He also leaves behind his nieces and nephews, Alexa, Sebastian, Andres, Cameron, Brianna, Alyssa, and Gianna. Many aunts and uncles, endless cousins and friends. Jesse was born in Stanford Hospital and lived in Redwood City and attended Selby Lane Elementary, Henry Ford School, Kennedy Middle School, and graduated from Woodside High School where in 2012. He enlisted in the Marine Corps in 2013. He was assigned to Heavy Marine Helicopter Squadron 464 aboard Marine Corps Air Station New River. He was promoted to his current rank in September 2016. Jesse was awarded the following: Sea Service Deployment Ribbon, Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal, Marine Corps Good Conduct Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, National Defense Service Medal, and Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal. Jesse will be remembered as a loving son, a wonderful brother, a playful uncle, and best friend to anyone he could have. Jesse will be deeply missed. We want to thank him also for his selfless dedication to our country. With that, we're adjourned in memory of Jesse Vasquez Contreras and Vince Truselli. Thank you.